Welcome in to another episode of the PFF College Football Show. Max Chadwick alongside Dalton Wasserman here with our Week 9 review show, breaking down the biggest games of the weekend and releasing the PFF grades from Week 9 as well. And Dalton, we have a full studio today. By full studio, I mean we have one extra person in studio. Your mom, Cheryl, is here in studio right now. This is a pretty big day for us. You getting a little nervous doing it in front of your mom?
Look, I was just going to say, this better not be the day that I decide to go and screw some things up, obviously. we got a pretty honored guest here in the house today, so certainly the pressure is on.
We got to get your mom and my mom to do a show together.
Oh, boy.
Your mom knows infinitely more ball than my mom. My mom would be a mess on the show.
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely. I'm telling you, she watches.
She'd try her best, though. Shannon would try her best.
She watches the Saints every week. She's a diehard Saints fan.
We were watching USF Memphis at the bar.
Memphis. My brother went to USF, so that's a thing down in Tampa.
Tough game for the Washermans.
Yeah, tough. I had FAU. Me and my sister went to FAU. That was the upset.
That was expected, though.
Yeah, that we knew that. I just took, you talk about a long shot gamble with. I knew what was coming there, but like I said, I just, as it shows with our upset results, I didn't like anything this week. It was a tough week to pick them, and certainly tough results to go with it.
The no Sunday show parlay, unfortunately, was not very good this week. Actually, the only one that hit was that Memphis-USF game, unfortunately. So we were 1 for 8 this week. We'll talk about that later on in the show. So not a great showing for the no Sunday show parlay, but we will get back on track in Week 10. Don't you worry. To remind you guys what we're doing here on this grade release show, we're going to, like I said, release all the grades from all these games, and all of those grades are available to you guys right now with a PFF Plus subscription at subscribe.pff.com, and you can get it for 25% off right now if you use the promo code PFFCFB25. Yeah, exactly. If you can keep using that promo code so we have the funds to keep throwing into the no Sunday show parlay, and then we're going to hit that no Sunday show parlay, make whatever, $250,000, and then we're going to be well on our way. But yeah, right now, since we keep missing it, it's basically $10 in the hole every single weekend. So please use that promo code right now, PFFCFB25, to get 25% off your PFF Plus subscription. And you get access to all the best betting tools, fantasy football tools, and the 2026 NFL Mock Draft Simulator right now as well. All right, let's dive into the first game we're going to talk about. Maybe the biggest game of the weekend. That was number 8 Ole Miss beating number 13 Oklahoma 34-26. Let's go over the highest grade player, starting off with the Ole Miss Rebels. Their highest grade player was wide receiver Winston Watkins, 82.9. Another wide receiver here in Caden Lee, 76.4. Prince Will Umanmielen, 75.8. The edge rusher, another edge rusher here in Suntaran Perkins with a 73 grade. Jalen Braxton, the cornerback, 71.9. And Trinidad Chambliss with an 82 grade against what is an elite Oklahoma defense. All right, now for Oklahoma, their highest grade players in the loss. Running back Xavier Robinson, 78.6. Defensive tackle Grayson Halton, 74.8. Another D tackle here, and David Stone, 74.6. Cornerback Cortland Guillory, 73.7. Another cornerback here in Eli Bowen, 72.5. And John Mateer with only a 53.3 grade in the loss. Dalton, what told the story in this game?
I think, to me, this was the best performance of the season for Ole Miss run defense, aside from the one Xavier Robinson touchdown run, the 65-yarder that got Oklahoma back in the game. Their run defense was outstanding. You take out that run, and Oklahoma had 24 carries for 81 yards the rest of the game, and this is something I've talked about repeatedly with Oklahoma. They struggle to run between the tackles. They struggle to run with their backs. Again, Robinson had the one long run, but not much otherwise. Torrey Blaylock didn't get anything going. They kept John Mateer in the pocket and made him beat them north and south, and I think that was really a big difference, because right now, especially with Mateer, it looks like he's either still not 100% or just not in rhythm after missing a game earlier this season with the injury with his thumb. You make John Mateer beat you with his arm. And I know there's been a narrative around this Oklahoma team that, John Mateer can just beat you any way he wants. But if this team can't run the football, and that's supposed to be their greatest strength with this backfield, a loaded backfield coming into the season, then they get one-dimensional, they have a lot of problems. They really do. John Mateer has not looked good since coming back from this injury throwing the football. So the fact that Ole Miss had a season-high 81.7 run defense grade as a team and only allowed one designed explosive run, the Robinson touchdown, I think that was a big factor in their success on defense in this game. You got good performances from several players. Prince Will Umanmielen off the edge. Suntaran Perkins off the edge was good. The linebackers, TJ Daugherty and Jaden Yates, they were really good. I think just a team effort here in run defense, and a similar theme that we've seen all year with Oklahoma. They're very inconsistent running the football, especially against the better teams on the schedule.
Yeah, so the trenches for Ole Miss were outstanding because the defensive line, like you mentioned before, the run defense was great. How about the offensive line for Ole Miss as well? Only a 12% pressure rate allowed against Oklahoma. Mentioned before in the preview, Oklahoma entered this week with the highest pressure rate in the country on defense at 47%, and they could not get after Trinidad Chambliss in this game. And Ole Miss, meanwhile, they were 5th in pressure rate allowed on offense going into the week at 21%. So really strength on strength for Ole Miss and Oklahoma, and Ole Miss won this battle with their offensive line. A 76.2 pass blocking grade in this game, 0 sacks and only 2 hits allowed all game. 2 of their guards, Delano Townsend and Patrick Kutas, they were not beaten once out there. Oklahoma blitzed Chambliss on 30 of his 49 dropbacks, and Ole Miss handled it beautifully with only 4 pressures allowed as well. So, Oklahoma, like I said before, has an elite pass rush, but they were stonewalled by the Rebels in this game.
If you play this Oklahoma team and you only give up 1 sack, and I believe they came into this game leading the nation in sacks, is that right? I believe they led the nation in sacks coming into this game.
And that sack was on Chambliss. It wasn't even on the offensive line.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, you're talking about, but any result you get to where you play Oklahoma and you only have 1 sack allowed, that's a great day against that pass rush, R. Mason Tomlin and those guys. And you just mentioned over a 60% blitz rate from Brent Venables. He was trying. It just wasn't happening. Lane Kiffin, great stuff in the clutch with the play calls, and Chambliss was just outstanding. Look, I thought it was a great bounce back for him. Coming off the Georgia loss where he missed a lot of throws, had an opportunity to win that game, and got shut down in the fourth quarter. This was some bounce back on the road for Ole Miss, and the way it sets them up for the rest of the season, you really like their playoff chances because of it.
I'll just go right to my most impressive. That is Trinidad Chambliss in this one, because yes, the offensive line was very good for Ole Miss in this one, but also Trinidad Chambliss did a phenomenal job protecting his offensive line too. An average time to throw of 2.33 seconds in this game, an 80.8 passing grade. He threw for 315 yards, 4 big-time throws, 0 turnover-worthy plays. Like I said, did a great job of mitigating Oklahoma's blitzes and finding quick answers with his hot routes in this game. That's why I said before, Trinidad Chambliss going into the week was one of the highest graded quarterbacks in the country against pressure and against the blitz because of how decisive he is as a passer, and he was incredibly decisive in this one against Oklahoma. He also ran for 53 yards on the ground as well. Just a massive, massive performance by Trinidad Chambliss. And now, Dalton, you look at Ole Miss and their schedule. All they got to do is win 3 of their final 4 games, I would say, to make the playoff. And they play South Carolina, the Citadel, Florida, and Mississippi State. They should be easily favored in all 4 of those games.
I absolutely agree. They're a better team than all 4 of those teams. They just got to hold up in the trenches, especially if they do it as well as they did in this game. They can win all those games. They can finish 11-1 with just the loss to Georgia. And honestly, we talk about playoff, but they finished 11-1 with just that 1 loss to Georgia. They might find themselves in the SEC title game.
Yeah.
Need still a little bit of help there, but certainly they've got a really good chance to win their last 4. And Chambliss, look, he's been their MVP. And the only other thing I'm going to say with Trinidad Chambliss, if we don't have enough proof now, do not take him off the field. I don't mind the Kwan Lacey Wildcat thing.
Yeah.
And look, Austin Simmons, talented player, shown it in the past. We've seen it in flashes. Do not take Trinidad Chambliss off the field for even a single snap.
For massive plays, too.
Massive game-changing plays. Simmons, we saw, him for 3 or 4 snaps?
Yeah.
And those 3 or 4 snaps really could have cost Ole Miss. This guy is your quarterback, Lane Kiffin. There's no controversy. There never has been. We declared this after a week or 2 of Chambliss that this is not a controversy and it should not be made one. Leave him on the field in every big moment and he's going to give you a chance to win.
I remember we were at that restaurant with your mom yesterday, and every single time Austin Simmons went in the game, you're like, what are we doing out here?
And it just did not. There's no reason.
Yeah.
It's that part where if it was something like we saw Mississippi State do this with where it's Blake Shapen and Kamario Taylor, and Taylor adds a different if it's something different that guy adds, sure. What does he add that Chambliss can't already do?
Yeah.
Is the question. So and taking the offense out of rhythm and taking points on the board. That's the only thing I ask for Ole Miss. FAU legend Lane Kiffin, please just leave Trinidad Chambliss on the field for 100% of the snaps.
And I get
That's all we need.
I get it. It sucks that, Austin Simmons lost his job because of injury. But Chambliss took over and it's been unreal.
So did Drew Bledsoe.
Yeah, it just
happens
sometimes. Yeah, it happens sometimes, and I know it sucks, but it comes to a point where you're like, hey man, you gotta you got to play Trinidad Chambliss the whole time. They still won the game, though, Dalton as well. Chambliss is phenomenal, but also one of his star receivers was also great in this game.
I'll tell you what, I don't know if we can call Ole Miss the best receiving core in the country, but it's probably the deepest because it feels like somebody every week. It's DeJon Stribling last week. It's Caden Lee, and he had another good game. It's several tight ends. This week in the second half especially, how about, I know he only had 4 catches, but 111 yards. Winston Watkins and the plays that he made, those 4 catches, I could argue, directly led to 13 points for Ole Miss in the second half of this game. 2 third-down catches in the third quarter that set up a field goal. The crosser early in the fourth that set up the go-ahead touchdown, that was an explosive play that set up that touchdown. The go ball right after Oklahoma fumbles a punt. It looked like Oklahoma had the momentum. They fumbled away around midfield, and then Chambliss still has to make one more play. The go ball to Watkins, that was probably Chambliss' best throw of the day, that set him up for another field goal to put him up 8. A short amount of impact with just the 4 catches, but those 4 catches were a huge difference in this game. And the fact that Ole Miss can just keep rolling out a million receivers and tight ends and all these guys that can catch the football, it makes Chambliss' life a lot easier because he can just go, all right, which one of you is open? Because you're all talented and you can all make plays. Watkins was really good even in short work here.
Absolutely. So before we move on to the next game, real quickly, how much of a lock do you think Ole Miss is right now to make the playoff?
Probably. I mean, if you're talking that, if you're even just telling me the chances they win 3 out of 4, would we say 90%? I mean, it might be 90% that they win at least 3 out of 4, and they're obviously going to be favored in all 4. I mean, them, and we're going to get to the next game too here with Texas A&M. Those 2 teams, boy, they're in really good position right now, and you feel like they should be favored in the rest of their games.
And for Oklahoma now, 2 losses on the year. Now all of a sudden you have that 4 games coming up. Was it Tennessee,
LSU, Alabama, Missouri? I think is the 4.
That's it.
I mean, this Tennessee game next week with both of them with 2 losses, we might be calling that an eliminator.
Yeah.
And Oklahoma, if they can't get their offense together, they're not gonna win even 3 out of 4 of those games. They need to get there because look, all of their games against real non-group of 5 FCS teams, they've scored 26 or less.
Yeah. Just
doesn't get it done consistently on a week. It's just an inconsistent offense that they got to find it. And if they don't find it against Tennessee, a team who can really score, that might be it next week. It's dire now for Oklahoma.
And I know that no 3-loss team made it as an at-large last year. Oklahoma might be able to, considering how hard their schedule is. But Dalton, I mean, you look at the rest of the conferences right now, there are so many teams that are undefeated or 1 loss right now. Like, I don't know if a 3-loss team can get in this year, no matter how hard the schedule.
It's starting to feel like, especially with the way some other conferences are shaking out, like you
the
mentioned.
Big 12, dude. It's crazy.
Right. Even a Notre Dame at 10-2 is still feeling like they're on shaky ground. I know it's Notre Dame and they've played great offensive football, but we got some teams who are just not losing yet. They're refusing right now, and that's what you got to and this is what the urgency that the playoff has added, that every single week is an add to the resume. And if you are even in the Big 12 or the ACC and you find your way to 11-1, and there's some candidates for that, it's going to be hard to keep you out of there.
Like, there's legitimately, there is a scenario where there are 3 11-1 Big 12 teams this year.
There's a scenario where there's 3 that finish in the ACC. You could get you could get Georgia Tech possibly a 12-0. You could mess around and do that. Virginia and Miami still, because they don't play either of those teams. You could get an 11-1 Miami not in the ACC title game. That's entirely on the table too.
Yeah, we were at that playoff committee mock selection. I am saying right now, I do not envy them this year. It's going to be madness.
It's going to be a nightmare.
Yeah, it's going to be a nightmare for them to figure it out. But we can't wait for that. The first playoff ranking comes out in a couple weeks, actually. So we're very excited to see what they come up with in a couple weeks. But massive win nonetheless for Ole Miss, who should be climbing in the top 10 right now after beating Oklahoma. Another big result in the SEC. This one was not as good of a game, though, because number 3 Texas A&M put a beatdown on number 20 LSU, 49-25, a massive second half for the Aggies to pull away from the Tigers. Let's go over the highest graded players, starting off with Texas A&M. Their highest graded player was their linebacker, Scooby Williams, 82.7. Mark Naboo Jr., the center, 81.5. DJ Hicks, the D tackle, 77.5. Another linebacker here, and their star player, Torian York, 74.2. Another star here, and Mario Craver, wide receiver, 73. And Marcel Reed with a 58.5 grade in the win for Texas A&M. Let's go over to LSU with their highest grade players. Their freak tight end, Tradez Green, 78.9. Edge rusher, Jack Pyburn, 74.1. Safety, AJ Halsey, 68.9. Center, Braylon Moore, 68. Patrick Payton, the edge rusher, 66.6. And Garrett Nussmeier, the quarterback, 54.2. Dalton, what told the story and what was, I wouldn't say surprising result, but I think the way A&M pulled away in the second half was at least a little surprising to me.
Well, the funny part about it is it's basically the same game that we saw last year, right?
Yeah.
Where it was close, and then LSU wasn't good enough in the trenches, and A&M pulled away in the second half. We basically watched the same game between these two teams last year. Marcel Reed came off the bench in last year's game to take it over. He was obviously in for all 4 quarters in this one, but I think the theme for both of these teams is that Texas A&M, very solid in the trenches, right? One of the better offensive lines in the country with Cassius Howell and those guys on the defensive line, one of the better defensive lines in the country. And LSU, I think this is the problem now that we've seen in their SEC schedules, that offensive, defensive line, they're just not as good as they've been in past years. And the injuries on the offensive line, and offensive tackle especially, just killing them. It was my biggest concern that Cassius Howell and Deion Hayes and those guys could get after LSU's offensive line. You look at the offensive line grades. Texas A&M, 71.9. LSU, 55.9. Decisive advantage there. Defensive line, A&M 77.6, LSU 67.7, just significantly better in the trenches, Texas A&M, and that's the difference in this game. What does that lead to? With better blocking, more sustainable, consistent play. We saw it from LSU.
Yep. Solid
offensive first half. Garrett Nussmeier making throws, obviously has to get rid of the football quicker than just about anybody in the country right now. He can do that, but he's getting beat up too. I mean, he's basically getting taken out in the fourth quarter of this game for his own safety because of this offensive line. Then you look at the difference in what that creates in explosive plays because Marcel Reed has time to throw the football because A&M can run the football with some success. 15 explosive plays for Texas A&M, 6 for LSU. LSU's offense especially, and I know they gave up 49 in this game and everything just kind of avalanched on it, but LSU's offense, all it is right now is just quick passing game. It's just whatever they can create after the catch. And other than maybe an occasional pop from Barryon Brown or Xavier Thomas, they just don't have enough when it comes to running the football and keeping balance and sustaining. They don't have a sustainable, consistent. To me, LSU and Oklahoma's offense are a lot alike. I think it's appropriate that we're talking about these two teams first because they just don't have enough in the trenches to create balance in their offense, and they ask the quarterbacks to do too much. A&M was by far the better team in the trenches in this game. That's where it starts.
A&M was by far the better team in the second half of this game, too, because A&M went into halftime down in this game. They were losing 18-14 at halftime, and they completely turned it around in the second half. Mike Elko must have lit a spark under their ass in the locker room, in that halftime locker room, because they came out with a vengeance. They outscored LSU 35-7 in the second half. They averaged 6.1 yards per play in the second half. LSU only averaged 3.3 yards per play, 0.490 EPA per play for A&M, negative 0.312 for LSU. Marcel Reed only threw the ball 3 times in the second half of this game because Texas A&M could run all over LSU to the tune of 138 yards on the ground. Even though it was really LSU's season that was on the line in this game at home, Texas A&M played like the more desperate team, though, in the second half.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think when you look at just the situation they were in, and as bad as the first half went, right, you had the block punt, you had the Reed interception in the end zone. There was a lot of really bad things that happened for A&M in the first half, that some of it was their own mistakes, and yet they go into halftime, and they're down by 4, and they go, you know what? Let's just breathe. We feel like we're the better football team here. We don't make mistakes. We're not going to lose many games. And I do think that is the case with Texas A&M right now. As long as they're okay with the ball security on a week-to-week basis, point out the obvious flaw on this team. They can run the football well. They got 2 dynamite receivers. We've been talking about those guys all year. Mike Elko's got this defense rolling. They have the best pass rusher right now in the SEC in Cassius Howell. And these, I'll tell you what, my most impressive, and they had a quieter box score kind of day, but the way that Torian York and Scooby Williams just control the game at linebacker, especially in coverage in this game with LSU throwing so much, combined to allow 4 catches for 6 yards. They're such great tacklers. They're so instinctive in the run game. Williams and York behind this defensive line with all the holes that those guys create for them up front to work through and all that space the D-line creates for them. You've got a real 3-layer defense working right now, and you've got a 2-dimensional offense. There's a reason they're the number 3 team in the country, and it's because they don't have too many glaring weaknesses.
Absolutely, yeah. Big win for A&M. I want to shout out a guy who wasn't in the highest grade. I'm sure a lot of A&M fans are wondering why he isn't in the highest grade. I want to remind people those grades are offensive grade and defensive grade. If you add in special teams, this guy would have been in the highest graded players. That is Casey Concepcion the star receiver for Texas A&M. Didn't have much of an opportunity as a receiver in this game because A&M ran the ball so much. I mentioned before, Marcel Reed only had 3 pass attempts in the second half. But Concepcion still led the team with 3 catches for 45 yards and a touchdown, a 151 passer rating when targeted. But I mentioned before his impact on special teams, 3 punt returns for 132 yards and a touchdown that included a 79-yard touchdown punt return. He has lived up to the hype and then some after transferring in from NC State. He is a jitterbug with the ball in his hands right now, and the fact that he might not even be the number 1 receiver for A&M because of Mario Craver and how good he has been as a true sophomore just shows how elite that duo has been for the Aggies this year.
We talked about it before the season that if this works for A&M, just the sheer number of athletes they have that can do explosive things with the football. I mean, how deep is the running back room too, right? Le'Veon Moss is out. Reuben Owens went out late in this game, and they got a million running backs they can go to. And Craver and Concepcion, I think those 2 guys, both of them are really the difference in this team from last year. Last year, a hard time getting consistent production from their wide receivers, even though Marcel Reed was playing well and they could really run the ball. But those 2 are the biggest difference in this team. I think that's the difference between them being a top 20 team like they were last year into a top 5 team, is they are 2-dimensional. And you mentioned a Concepcion with the punt returns. Yeah. It's just, he is dynamic. He's as dynamic as it gets. We're going to hear about, I saw somebody comping him to Luther Burden. We're going to hear Deebo Samuel. Just find any way to get the ball in KC's hands or even Mario Craver's hands, and good things are going to happen. It's been happening all year. And, just like we just mentioned with Ole Miss, Texas A&M is really set up now for success. Not only, especially them as the undefeated team, they have the inside track to the SEC title game. If you look at this now, they play Missouri with Matt Zollers at quarterback. They play South Carolina, and they go to Texas, which the rivalry is always fun. But I got to sit here and say I think Texas A&M is a better team than Texas right now. That's pretty obvious with as inconsistent as Texas has been. So they've got an inside track to Atlanta right now. They just got to take advantage of it.
They definitely do. So right now, Texas A&M with their first 8-0 start since the 1992 season. Top 3 team in the country right now, and looks like the favorite right now in what is still an open SEC with Alabama and Georgia still looming, and Ole Miss, of course, too. But Texas A&M with the only undefeated team in the SEC remaining. They remain that with a win over LSU, convincing one over LSU. All right, another ranked game in the SEC. We have number 10 Vanderbilt beating number 15 Missouri. 17-10 was the final score of that game. Let's go over the highest grade player, starting off with the Vanderbilt Commodores. Highest graded player was defensive tackle Joshua Singh, 76.9. Linebacker Langston Patterson, 76.2. Tight end Eli Stowers, 76.1. Mark Davis, the cornerback, 71.6. Trey Richardson, the wide receiver, 70.3. And Diego Pavia, the quarterback, 53.5. Let's go over the highest graded player, starting with the Missouri Tigers. Linebacker Josiah Trotter, 82.1. Edge rusher Damon Wilson, 78.3. Cornerback Dalen Carnell, 76.1. Keegan Tross, the offensive tackle, 76. Jude James, the tight end, 73.7. And Bo Prabulu suffered, unfortunately, a pretty serious ankle injury. He had a solid 74.6 grade in the loss for Missouri. Dalton, what told the story for you?
I think, when you have games that are tight and defensive like this, they're one on the margins. It can really be, 17-10 this game ends up. And certainly this game was, an inch or two from being tied with the Hail Mary at the end, right? But I think when you look throughout this game at Missouri, they're going to kick themselves a little bit for some missed opportunities, whether it was Prabula or Zollers in there at quarterback. A tripping penalty kind of stalls a drive in the second quarter. Settle for a field goal in Vandy territory. Stop, that Bo Prabula play where he was hurt. It looks like he's out for the season with that leg injury. Stopped at the 2-yard line. Vanderbilt made a goal line stand as Missouri was going in. No points on that drive. They clanked a 29-yard field goal in the third quarter. A fumble near midfield on a punt return for Missouri. And then you talk about the Hail Mary coming up. That Hail Mary almost encapsulated their whole day, where it was just, wow, we were this close to doing this. And look, I thought that Missouri would present a different type of challenge to Vanderbilt with their physicality in the trenches on both sides of the ball. That was the case. Vanderbilt did not, other than MK Young's long touchdown run, Vanderbilt didn't run the ball very well. Pavia didn't have his best day, obviously in a 17-10 game, but Vanderbilt in the moments that mattered the most in this game, They came through, and that's huge to set them up because they still have a tough schedule moving forward. But this is a huge win to get over a top 15 team, to grind it out in a defensive fashion like this. I think it's just big for the Commodores when you feel like, okay, I mentioned LSU, the game last week. The last couple weeks, Vanderbilt has really been the better team in the trenches. They've done it again. They're finding ways to grind out wins, and it's not always just flash and glitz and glamour with Diego Pavia. This is still a physical football team that can play in these types of games, and it's really helping them in these close games right now.
Yeah, for anyone wondering, Matt Zollers had a 58.2 grade in the game for Missouri as well, because he did play around 50 snaps in this one too. I'm looking at Vanderbilt's defense, man. 87.1 run defense grade for the Commodores in this one. I said in the preview, they had to focus on stopping Missouri's ground game, and really, with Bo Prabula went down with an injury, they did even more. They did just that, man. Highest run defense grade against a Power 4 opponent for Vanderbilt in the PFF college era. Mizzou only averaged 4.6 yards per carry. 19 defensive stops for Vanderbilt on 35 carries for Missouri in this one. 5 tackles for loss and no gain. And what I love for Vanderbilt in this one, all 3 levels of their defense were fantastic in run support. C.J. Hurd and Randon Fontenette each had 3 stops each, and they both play defensive back for Vanderbilt right now. So, like I said before, with Bo Prabula going down with an injury, Missouri tried to rely on their ground game even more in this one, and Vanderbilt completely shut it down. And just a great job overall by Vanderbilt with their highest run defense grade against a Power 4 opponent in the PFF college era.
No, I think that's a great call. My most impressive guy is Langston Patterson, the middle linebacker. 85.3 run defense grade, 8 total tackles, 3 stops. He was just flying around in the front 7. And look, you're right. When you're playing a team like this with Missouri's offensive line, with Ahmad Hardy breaks 6 tackles. Yeah. But for Ahmad Hardy's standards, that's not very many, all right? He had other games at 10, 12, 13, right, that we thought, man, and he's still, I think, second in the country in missed tackles forced, but the tackling was excellent. The swarming to the football. You mentioned C.J. Hurd. How good was the play to just get into the backfield when they had messed up the read option, and he just found his way. He found the football, and it turned into Vanderbilt's game-winning drive there. I think you're right. It was a team effort, and it starts to me when you have a middle linebacker like Langston Patterson setting the tone behind a defensive line that's playing better than at any point they did last year. That's big time, and that's the first goal against Missouri, no matter who the quarterback is you have to somewhat slow down the run game. 4.6 per carry is a very good number against that team.
Yeah, they were phenomenal and just really swarming to the football all over for Vanderbilt in this one. I'm going most impressive. I'm going with the head coach, Clark Lee. Just what he's done to that program is unbelievable. Vanderbilt is 7-1 for the first time since 1941. They beat a top 15 team in the country, even with Diego Pavia not having his best day with only a 49 passing grade in that one. Last year, Vanderbilt needed Diego Pavia's magic to win big games, but they weren't enough of a well-rounded team to be a true contender. Now you're seeing it right now. They have a well-rounded team right now. The defense won Vanderbilt this game. Dalton, I can't tell you the last time we could say defense won Vanderbilt in a big game. Honestly.
It's been a long time. I'm not even sure. I'd have to check, but I'm not even sure.
We might have to go back to that 1941 season, honestly.
Seriously. I mean, I'm looking at last year. They beat Auburn last year 17-7, but Auburn was struggling. I mean, this is a huge game to get. No, the way their defense played, because this game was scoreless for a long time. Yep. This was close to the vest. It was physical. It's really, to me, how Missouri probably wanted it. And yet Vanderbilt found a way to win, right? So it could be, and look, to win this type of game, look at their next couple of games against Texas and against Auburn, whose run defense is the best part of their team. These could be defensive games as well. And this experience of grinding this out and even grinding out a close game against a really good defense in LSU last week, this is big time. And now you look at Vanderbilt, and the same goal as a couple of these other teams we've talked about. You got Texas, Auburn, Kentucky, Tennessee. Can you win 3 out of 4?
Yeah.
You get 3 out of 4, you feel really good about it. You're going to be favored in 2 of those. You might even be favored against Texas, depending on what the books are thinking. And Arch Manning reportedly has a concussion coming out of the end of that game, so who knows if we even see him or if it'll be Matt Caldwell next week. So huge games coming, and if they win 3 out of 4, I think Vandy is going to get there.
And now Vanderbilt, too. So they were ranked number 10 in the country before this game. They're going to be ranked, obviously, higher than number 10 going into next week. They have not been ranked higher than number 10 since 1937.
I know,
so it is incredible. What Clark Lee is doing to revive that program right now is downright incredible. It's like the SEC version of Kursignetti right now at Indiana.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, that's where you're at. And with this team, again, last year it was the magic of Pavia and Eli Stowers and the whole New Mexico State thing coming over. This year they got a complete football team. The way their defense played in this game, they can run it. And I'll say it again, too, because there's certain moments it continues to show up every week. The depth they have at receiver and even with pass catchers in general, with tight end and receiver. We didn't see Cole Spence really in this game, but Stowers had a couple of nice catches. Trey Richardson's a big factor with the speed. Junior Sherrill makes plays. I mean, you just have a different level of depth on this Vanderbilt team than you had last year. That's what's making the difference between being a bowl team and a potential playoff team.
So we started the show in the 2023 season. Imagine if I told you, Dalton, in that 2023 season that 2 years later we would have potentially Indiana be the number one team in the country going into the playoff, and Vanderbilt as a college football playoff team the same year too.
That's college football.
That's incredible.
It is constantly getting turned upside down, and it continues to do so every single week.
Oh, it's incredible. And then BYU and Houston might make the playoff
save
too.
for BYU and Houston and Virginia and Georgia Tech being undefeated and everything else we have. This is the fun part of it. If you're a traditional power sitting on your laurels, you're going to have an issue.
What was Vanderbilt's record in 2023? I got to look right now.
I think they were 2-10.
I think they were somewhere. Yeah, they were 2-10. So 2-10 Vanderbilt, 3-9 Indiana in 2023, and then 2 years later, both these programs are easily top 10.
The most important position in college football is your head coach.
It's true.
It's that simple. They run everything, and if they get a team believing, and then they just get, Kurt Cignetti's got that team believing with the winning culture he brought with a lot of those guys from JMU, Vanderbilt with Pavia and what they did the year before at New Mexico State. That's all you do. You get a team to believe. And then they start feeling like, okay, we got the momentum going. Then you get more talented guys in there like Vandy got in the portal this year. This is the result of it. No, Lee's doing just an unbelievable job. And how many different candidates do we have for Coach of the Year?
No, it's unbelievable.
It is unbelievable how many you can make a case for like 10 different guys for Coach of the Year right now.
Yeah, the Any Given Saturday doc, if you haven't checked it out yet on Netflix, you absolutely should. It followed a lot of SEC teams last year. And one of them was Vanderbilt. And I remember in that episode, Clark Lee said, there's no reason why Vanderbilt should not be the best program in the country. And I'll admit, I rolled my eyes at that. I was like, all right, sure, Clark. Look what he's doing now. Like that's called changing the culture at that program right now. And he has those kids believing they can go out there and beat anyone, and they could absolutely do that this year.
5-star quarterback in for a visit, right? I know you love that.
Yeah.
I know that's your favorite thing.
Just saying.
You never know.
The number one quarterback in the country who's currently committed to Georgia, Jared Curtis, was visiting Vanderbilt.
Just taking a little visit, Just
I loved just
taking a look around Nashville.
Comedian that was Game Day's guest picker.
Oh, Nate Bargatze.
Nate Bargatze multiple times on Game Day was shouting out Jared Curtis. It's like, hey kid, come on down to Vanderbilt. Imagine the number one quarterback in the country commits to Vanderbilt.
College football.
That would rule for everyone but Georgia fans, honestly, because obviously he's going to Georgia right now. But man, that would be incredible if they could replace Diego Pavia with the number one quarterback in America. We'll get to that later on if we do a recruiting episode, though. But yeah, huge win for Vanderbilt, and maybe that does help him out in the Jared Curtis recruitment right now. It certainly helps him out in the college football playoff race as well. And Dalton, Missouri, real quick on Missouri, they have 2 losses now. I mean, they need to win out, I would say.
They need to win out, and they're going to have to win out with Matt Zoller as the true freshman as their quarterback. Not that he played terribly in this game. He did everything he possibly could, honestly, when you look at especially the Hail Mary that was caught and fell an inch short. But no, Missouri's all of a sudden in dire straits.
They got A&M after a bye week now.
A&M, Mississippi State, at Oklahoma. I mean, and it changes without Prabula. And I know Prabula wasn't playing great lately, but he's still a veteran who's at least he was their starting quarterback. And then you had already lost Sam Horn earlier in the year to a season-ending injury. So now it's on the true freshman Zollers, and they're going to have to run the football extremely well. They've done that most of the year. They've played really good defense in this game, but it's going to be a tall order even after a bye week to have a true freshman beating Texas A&M in a couple weeks. They pull that off, then maybe we'll see about what happens after that. But that feels like their season on the line in Week 11.
I will say, even though he graded below a 60, I was impressed by Matt Zollers out there. I thought he kept his composure.
It was gutsy.
Yeah,
it was definitely
gutsy.
Yeah, down to the final throw. Really, just came up and in short. It was a gutsy performance, and they're going to need more.
And he's a talented kid.
He
was speaking of recruiting, he was a top 10 quarterback coming out of high school. Actually, he's a guy from Pennsylvania, so he is talented. He's a true freshman. Obviously, he's not a lot of experience, but he's a talented kid. So we'll see what he can do because there is confirmation already that Bo Prabula is out for at least the rest of the regular season.
I'd be shocked.
And how eerie is it that Drew Aller and Bo Prabula like the same injury? 2 Penn State's quarterbacks last year, almost the same injury to both of them this year. It's crazy.
It is
It's
a bit
little
odd.
eerie.
Yeah. That's odd, but I know.
sucks
I
for
mean,
ball, man.
well, the future is now in Missouri with Zollers.
Future might be now for Penn State too with Ethan Grunkemeyer too. So you're kind of getting a look at maybe the future quarterback for both programs right now. Premature one, unfortunately, for both programs with those two going down. So hopefully both will be looking at healthy soon. But yeah, big win for Vanderbilt though, 17-10 over Missouri. Unfortunately, Dalton, for your family, got to do this next game. Memphis taking down USF 34-31. Let's go over the highest grade players, starting off with the Memphis Tigers. Their highest grade player was safety Chris Bracey, 77.5. Another safety here, Kamari Wilson, 74.9. Cortez Bram Jr., the wide receiver, who made a big touchdown catch to take the lead, 69.9. Offensive tackle Travis Burke, 69.2. Malachi Breland, the guard, 68. And Brendan Lewis, who was a little banged up going into the week, who still had a really good game with a 76.7 grade. Talk about him later on. Let's go over to USF with their highest grade players in the loss. Their highest grade player was linebacker Jalen Schuler, 82.5. Offensive tackle Connor McLaughlin, 75.3. Wide receiver Keyshawn Singleton, 74.1. Cornerback Jonas DeClona, 71.7. Wide receiver Mudia Rubin, 70.7. And Byron Brown with an 82.3 grade in the loss. Dalton, what told the story in this game?
Very much reminded me, thinking about it, of Memphis' win over Arkansas earlier in the year, where they were getting dominated in the first half and then just caught fire in the second half. That's essentially what happened here again with their offense. You look at their first 6 drives where they only scored once, 3 yards per play, and a 55.9 team offensive grade. Their last 6 drives caught fire. Brendan Lewis found his rhythm, even though he clearly was not 100%. If he was at maybe 70, maybe 80% in this game and found a way to get it done. 27 points on their last 6 drives, 7.2 yards per play, 76 offensive grade. I just think there was a couple of things that happened here. One, Memphis, they just feel like in these games where they're behind, and even the loss to UAB, they were down inside the 10-yard line looking to tie that thing, and A.J. Hill just couldn't get it done after Lewis's injury. But you look at this Memphis team, they caught fire, and USF just never could put them away. In the fourth quarter, they did not score. The run game on early downs was kind of letting them down a bit. Memphis was making Byron Brown beat him on 3rd and longs. He did it for a lot of the day, but in the fourth quarter, it was tough. And then, there's just certain decisions you look at from USF as well. There was a field goal they passed up on a 4th and 4 in the low red zone in the third quarter. The decision at the very end to try to take a shot at the end zone with 10 seconds left, and that cost them 10 yards with the holding penalty. That might have been the difference in them tying the game or not, because a kick from 42 is obviously a lot easier than 52. This was one of a couple games we saw like this, just the kind of right confluence of events to blow a 14-point late lead, right? But credit Memphis and Brendan Lewis and their offense just got raging hot in the second half. And when you look at that experience of doing the same thing against Arkansas and just finding a way to make one more play than the other team and getting your hot offense going, they did the same thing here in this game. It's a huge win for Memphis to get back on track after losing a game they shouldn't have lost to UAB last week.
Yeah, my stat is very similar. It's the fourth quarter difference in this one. So Memphis, like you mentioned before, was down 14 points heading into the fourth quarter, and they ended up going on a 17-0 run to end up winning this game. They outgained USF 221 yards to 89 in the fourth quarter of this one. An incredible job by the offense and defense for the Memphis Tigers. They averaged 8.5 yards per play. USF only averaged 4.5 yards per play. It felt like the nail might have gone into Memphis' coffin once they missed a field goal in the third quarter, and then USF on the very next play scored a 73-yard touchdown, but the Tigers immediately responded with a touchdown drive of their own, and they never looked back after that either. So unbelievable resilience by Ryan Silverfield's team in this game to never truly give up in this one. Going down by 14, going into the fourth quarter, and to have that 17-0 run like that in that fourth quarter, and the way they played in that fourth quarter offensively and defensively, just a great job of the Tigers all around.
And the defense making stands when they had to. All 3 drives from USF in the fourth quarter, one of them into Memphis territory, the next one right around midfield, and then the missed field goal, just like in that Arkansas game when they got maybe the defining play of their season with that forced fumble on Mike Washington at the end. There was just the stands when they have to happen, right? Maybe you're not always going to play elite defense, especially against a USF offense like this, but can you make the stops when they matter? Memphis made 3 stops when they mattered in this game, all at the right time. And you mentioned 17-0 in the fourth quarter. That's the result of it. A big reason they did outscore them, though, and I've been telling you this, is that I like this USF defense that Todd Orlando's got going. This is the best defense they've had since this staff has been there. But there's just not quite enough pass rush in certain moments. And if you don't have a pass rush, a really good quarterback like Brendan Lewis can hurt you. 88.9 pass blocking grade for Memphis as a team in this game. Brendan Lewis, who was not 100%, clearly could not run the way that he usually does, only pressured on 10 out of his 52 dropbacks in this game, and only once in the fourth quarter, and that wasn't even on the offensive line. He rolled out just looking for somebody because the play was covered well. Only pressured once in that fourth quarter. That's big. The USF pass rush, they don't have much of it anyway. Todd Orlando tried with the blitz on certain occasions, and they still couldn't get home. That's really the one weakness in their defense. I think the back seven's really good. The run defense is good, but not enough pressure in this game on a really good quarterback in Brendan Lewis. That allowed the door to stay open, along with the inability to finish on offense.
Yeah, great job by the offensive line for Memphis to protect their injured quarterback. And also, I want to shout out the gutsy performance from Brendan Lewis in this one, too, because it was really unknown if he would even start this game after being knocked out last week against UAB with that leg injury. He not only played, but played pretty well for the Tigers in this one. He threw for 307 yards, 2 touchdowns, and no interceptions. Also, even with that leg injury, Dalton, he still led the Tigers with 57 yards on the ground in this one, too. It wasn't the cleanest day for him overall in the rain. He had 3 turnover-worthy plays, but he got the job done, kept his composure, down 3 scores in the fourth quarter. And listen, after losing to UAB last week, which was not a very good loss for Memphis, but after losing that game last week, you get a major win like this week. Memphis is right back in the thick of it for the Group of 5 playoff race.
No, this right back in the thick of it. And even look, USF, even with this being their second loss on the season, they're not out of the playoff race either by any means.
It's only one conference loss.
We still feel like that the American Conference champion is very likely going to be the playoff team, unless there's just a whole lot of parity happening where they all end up, and then then it's a different thing. But no, USF can bounce back from this, and Memphis sets themselves up well. I mean, they still have a couple of huge games coming up soon against Tulane, and their last game of the season is against Navy. So, all those teams are going to play a big factor, along with North Texas playing Navy next week. That's a massive game, too, next week. We're going to be covering all 5 of these teams that we're talking about here in the American, because there's such huge games every week. And look, they're going to look like 50-50 games, just like this one. When Memphis plays Tulane, it's going to be similar. It's probably going to come down to a last-second field goal or something like that. When they play Navy, same thing. These are going to be tough games between really good teams, and this is only the start of the roller coaster. Yeah,
big game coming up on November 7th with Tulane against Memphis in that one. That should be a really fun game. And spoiler right now, we'll get to the top 25 later on in the show. Those are the only 2 Group of 5 teams that I have in my top 25 right now is Tulane and Memphis. So
and even with this loss, USF is probably not very far off.
They were legit 26 for me.
Yeah. I mean, it's just a really good football game between 2 teams that, one of them just didn't quite finish when they had the opportunity on the road, and that's the difference sometimes in making the playoff and not. But we'll see if they can bounce back. They got a huge game against that. USF plays Navy in a couple weeks as well. That's really the biggest game of their season now at this point.
Yeah, we'll be covering a lot of American games here on this show. We'll do actually on the Tuesday preview show. We'll get to that later on in the show too. But big win for Memphis over USF, getting their season back on track with a 34-31 win over the Bulls. All right, next up is number 4 Alabama surviving a scare from South Carolina, 29-22. Let's go over the highest graded player, starting off with the Alabama Crimson Tide. Their highest graded player was linebacker Deontay Lawson with a 78.1 grade in the win for Alabama. Second highest graded player was running back Jam Miller, 75.2. Cornerback Deshaun Jones, who had a massive pick 6 in this game with a 73.2 grade. Another defensive back here in Bray Hubbard, 71.9. Another defensive back here as well in Dijon Lee Jr., 71.1. And the Heisman hopeful Ty Simpson with only a 56.2 grade in the win for Alabama. Let's go over to South Carolina with their highest graded players in the loss. Their highest graded player was cornerback / return specialist Vakari Swain, 76.3. Defensive tackle Nick Barrett, 70.3. Safety Peyton Williams, 69.7. D tackle Monkel Goodwine, 69.1. Tree Babalade, the offensive tackle, 69.1 as well. And Lenora Sellers with a 59.5 grade in the loss. Dalton, What told the story of this game?
I think just what jumps out at me, and it was the same case against Tennessee with the pick six last week from Xavier Brown. This Alabama team now for 4 straight games, they've just made a habit of making huge game-changing plays on defense, and there were 2 more in this game. The drop from Rasul Faison that led to the Deshaun Jones pick six on the first drive from South Carolina of the day, and then the Deontay Lawson fumble, forcing Sellers to fumble in that tie game when Sellers had a chance to come down and win, and he immediately turns around and does that. I just think when you look at this Alabama team, not only are they obviously really talented, really good, the quarterback, Ty Simpson, struggled a bit in this game. South Carolina's defense played about as well as they could have, right, holding this Alabama team down. But I think you just look at this defense. And they're not always the best defense. They're not the best defense in the country, but they might be the most clutch right now. The pass rush isn't great, but the run defense is solid. The secondary's been really good. 7 takeaways in their last 4 games, and those have honestly been the biggest plays of this big win streak for Alabama. They keep making timely plays like this on defense, and they're going to be in a really good. They're already in a really good spot moving forward, but it's so big to make up for any deficiencies you have with takeaways, and Alabama's getting them at just the right times. And as far as how it relates to me to South Carolina's offense, they do not have enough on offense to make up for big mistakes like that. South Carolina's running backs, on top of the Rasul Faison drop that led to the pick six, 19 carries for 44 yards. Lenora Sellers, he had the 2 deep balls, especially the deep post to Nick Harbor. That was a big play, but on throws under 20 yards, he had a 40 passing grade in this game. There's just still more to go when his development for Sellers as a passer. They do not have enough offensively to make up for mistakes like this. Alabama forced them into a couple huge ones. Those are the 2 biggest plays of the game, and they've been making plays like that now all year. They've made a habit of it on Alabama on this defense. They attack the football. They make game-changing plays.
Yeah, just South Carolina's mistakes were what I'm talking about most in this game too, because and credit to Alabama for forcing them into those mistakes in this one, but South Carolina has to feel like they let this one through their fingertips, quite literally in some cases too, because Rasul Faison had a pass bounce off of his hands that Deshaun Jones returned for a pick six, so that interception was not Lenora Sellers' fault in this one. What was his fault was the fumble late in the game. Obviously, that set up Alabama's game-winning touchdown. Also, you had a holding penalty that negated a 15-yard touchdown run by Lenora Sellers. Another holding penalty completely halted a potential touchdown drive, too, from South Carolina. You missed a field goal if you're South Carolina, too. So credit to Alabama for staying resilient in this game. But like I said, Shane Beamer and the Gamecocks right now, they got to feel like this one just got away from them.
Absolutely. No, look, road games in the SEC are tough to win, no matter the environment, no matter the team. You go out there and you just find a way to win and move on with it if you're Alabama, and you're absolutely right. I mean, South Carolina, they just don't have room to make those mistakes, and you feel like all of a sudden they're running out of time to win enough games to even make a bowl game here, and there's just too many deficiencies to me on their offense to make up for that. So, no, credit to Alabama. Sometimes you just have to find a way in these games, especially with the letdown potential of having just beaten 4 straight teams in the top 20, and then you go, okay, we're going to South Carolina. They're not that great. Well, it's on this day they played you until your very last punch, and they found a way. Alabama, they just continue, especially the defense. I just think it's so impressive how in the 2 red zone turnovers, they could have easily lost to Vandy. The 2 red zone turnovers they forced, the pick six against Tennessee. The rest of that Tennessee game statistically was just about even. And that pick six just swung the whole game in Alabama's favor. Right now, you've got these turnovers in this South Carolina game.
Pick six here too. They have a penchant for massive pick sixes.
I mean, just it's not just we force turnovers, we get the football. It's like turn the game completely upside down type of plays. They're making a habit of it. When you can do that, it's great, because there's going to be a day. There's going to come a day soon where maybe they don't get 2 of those, right? And then Ty Simpson but he can do that. We've seen him do that too. So I think just the combination of the different ways that Alabama's winning games, that's the reason they're in the top 5 right now, and they've been able to bounce back from that early loss.
Yeah, shout out our social media director, Justin Wagner, is in the chat right now. Big Alabama fan. Went to Alabama. Big win for his Crimson Tide.
It's a good one to be right now.
Absolutely.
I mean, you feel pretty good about that.
So, Dalton, you stole this guy from me for my most impressive. I wanted to go with him, but you stole him from me. Shout out Deontay Lawson, who was phenomenal in this one.
He, especially in the second half, he played like an absolute maniac. You look at, he was their highest graded player in the second half of this game, an 88 PFF grade, a 90.9 run defense grade for the game, 12 tackles 4 pressures, a pass breakup, and then the fumble, not just any forced fumble. Number one, ripping it from Lenoris Sellers, who's a monster. And 2, on that same play, just the awareness, Tim Keenan is laying face down on the football, doesn't even know it, and basically Lawson has his arm jammed under him going, hey, grab that because I know it's out. He can't even see the football, and he's like, I know it's out. I got it out. Talking to big Tim Keenan, the biggest guy out there on the field, going, hey, the football is like just lodged in your stomach right now. If you just grab it, we're going to win this football game. He's screaming at him like an inch from his ear. I mean, Lawson, I'll tell you what, and these linebackers, it's a talented group with Lawson and Justin Jefferson, who was really good in this game. Again, Nakai Hill-Green as well, the transfer from Colorado. But you talk about a leader, just a guy stepping up when you need it the most. That middle linebacker, Deontay Lawson, he did it in this game, especially in the second half. He was all over the place.
Yeah, a phenomenal job by him getting that ball out the last second, too. I don't know if you saw Sellers in the post-game interview, but they asked him about that fumble. And he was like, yeah, I had 2 hands on it. I was going down to the ground. I put one hand out to brace for impact on the ground. And right when that happened, Deontay Lawson ripped that ball out. So he was like, hey, great play by Deontay Lawson.
It's an ultimate for Lawson play to the whistle type moment. And again, not just that, it amazes me. You talk about the awareness that he can't get to the football, but Tim Keenan's laying right on top, and it's like, just put your hands on it. Like, don't. He I almost wonder if he said it quiet enough to not even make Sellers or anybody else aware and like start a pile or anything.
Tim Keenan's not used to holding the ball in his hands. That's why Ryan Grubb's got to draw up some Keenan Proctor and Tim Keenan.
Yeah, he's got to get Tim Keenan the football. We got to get this going.
Yeah.
We got to
give him a handout. We got Keenan Proctor a handoff.
We did. Didn't work this time.
Didn't get a first down. I think the perfect streak of every carry going for first down is dead.
It's the fact that you have to be aware of it, though.
Yeah.
See that? I'm telling you, we're still waiting for the next pass.
Put Tim Keenan at least at left tackle when Proctor is taking the handoff.
Oh,
you could do that.
Unbalance it, make him eligible somehow. We're going to find it. We're going to get Tim Keenan the football again on offense. We're going to do it.
We need it so bad. Oh,
I need every player.
Football
I need every player on Alabama's roster at some point to touch the football this year.
That'd be incredible.
All of them. All the defensive guys are doing it.
Yeah, they're all doing it. Yeah, that's what I'm shouting out right now. The Alabama secondary. If you notice in that top 5 that I mentioned before for Alabama, 3 of the top 5 were secondary players for the Crimson Tide. They were phenomenal in this game. 5 different players for Alabama in their secondary had at least a 65 coverage grade, which is basically like above average for us. So Bray Hubbard, Deshaun Jones, Dijon Lee Jr., Keon Sabb, and Damani Jackson all had at least a 65 coverage grade. 3 were above a 70 in Bray Hubbard, Deshaun Jones, and Dijon Lee. 2, mentioned before, Deshaun Jones had a pick 6 in this game. Only a 76.7 passer rating allowed by Alabama, negative .206 EPA per pass allowed. And also, Dalton, they needed to play this way because they had no pass rush. Alabama really did for most of this game, too. So, outstanding job by Alabama's secondary, which has been easily, I would say right now, the best part of their pass defense with the pass rush kind of coming and going in every single week, it feels like. Alabama secondary has been consistently fantastic all year.
Honestly, outside of a 1 deep post to Nick Harbor, which just happens in South Carolina games, that's how that works. They were outstanding. And you look at Sellers, without screens, I'm taking 7 out of 8 completions on screens here. Without screens, he only completed 11 of 25 passes.
Yeah.
That's how good Alabama's secondary was in this game. It is one of the best units in college football. And again, the fact that they make plays on the ball and make game-changing plays and interceptions, pick sixes, things like that, it makes them a dangerous unit. It's hard, even with sometimes the lack of consistent pass rush, it makes them very hard to throw into the teeth of that defense.
Yeah, as Justin said in the chat, survive and advance is exactly what Alabama did. 29-22, beating South Carolina, remaining a top 5 team in the country. Before we get on to the final 4 games in this review, got to talk about the sponsor of the show, that is Draftkings. This PFF betting segment is brought to you by Draftkings. Lines and odds are subject to change. So, Dalton, let's take a look at the Heisman odds right now. Don't outright tell me who you think should win the Heisman just yet, because we're actually going to do a segment later on in the show for the top Heisman candidates right now. But currently on DraftKings Sportsbook, the favorite to win the Heisman Trophy is Indiana quarterback Fernando Mendoza at plus 260. Up next is Ty Simpson at plus 360 from Alabama. Julian Sayin, plus 380, the Ohio State quarterback. Marcel Reed, the Texas A&M quarterback, at plus 600. And Diego Pavia rounds out the top 5 at plus 800, the Vanderbilt quarterback. Is there any bet that you think is worth placing? Don't tell me who you think what your top 5 is just yet. Is there any value, though, you see in those odds right there?
Man, I mean, you look at – I think the three quarterbacks that stick out right now are Mendoza, Simpson, and Sayan, those first three guys. And I get the hype for Marcel
And they
Reed.
are the three favorites. So
they are, but I mean, I think right now it's – there's a lot of big games to go, and there's some fun candidates elsewhere too. I think when you look at somebody like I even think I was looking at numbers for a guy like a Brendan Sorsby at Cincinnati playing. He's our second highest graded quarterback.
He's plus 6,000
behind Sayan right now, right? You just
you
look at somebody like that. I mean, you look at a Haynes King and what he's doing for Georgia Tech. Diego Pavia obviously just keeps winning big games. He wasn't great this week, but you'll take it with the win, obviously. And I mean, you're talking again about. It's Vanderbilt, right? Or even with Mendoza, you're talking about it's Indiana that we're talking about as top 5, top 10 teams. So there's a lot of narrative to go. But I'll tell you one thing I can't wait for if it were to happen. And let's not even take a guy like Dante Moore from Oregon out of this. But if we do get Ohio State, Indiana in that Big Ten title game, there is a chance that that's not just for the Big Ten. That's for the Heisman.
Yeah, it could be for the Big Ten, the number 1 overall seed in the playoff, and for the Heisman Trophy.
If both of those teams, and if both of them are 12-0 going into it, I mean, how much fun are we going to have with that for sure? But no, it could be for the Heisman as well. That one game could actually decide it. But no, Ty Simpson wasn't great against South Carolina this week. He did it. You got some performances this week from several of them where they did enough, right? Mendoza, I don't think was fantastic in this game against UCLA, but they were racking up numbers in the second half, so that always helps your case. But no, I think when you talk about getting through and just continuing to get those wins, Haynes King's done it several times too. This race is going to go down to the wire. I still think it's wide open.
Yeah, multiple people right now are shouting out Haynes King as the best bet at plus 2,500, and I would say he's up there. He certainly is up there right now.
I mean,
should probably have better odds than that.
That's the thing too when you talk about Pavia and King especially, and even if I were to throw Sorsby into that mix, is the difference the rushing makes and their impact on the ground as well as through the air. Whereas, Simpson gives you a little, Mendoza gives you a little, but not like those guys. That needs to be taken into account too, what they do for the run game, and also use the PFF rushing numbers so all the sacks don't go into that, please, because then you get a real idea of how that should go.
Yeah, well, listen, the Heisman race is heating up right now, and one play can change that Heisman race and change the college football season. One upset can silence the stadium. With every snap, the stakes get higher, and no one brings you closer to the action than DraftKings Sportsbook, the number 1 sportsbook for live betting. From live in-game betting to rivalry week odds, boosts, and so much more, DraftKings Sportsbook brings you in the game from kickoff to the final whistle. Whether you're riding with your favorite team or making moves as momentum shifts, the game is always in your hands with DraftKings Sportsbook. New customers, this one is for you. Bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get paid out $300 in bonus bets instantly. Own every Saturday with DraftKings. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code PFF. That's code PFF to turn $5 into $300 in bonus bets if your bet wins. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 8778-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY at 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort, Kansas, pass-through of per wager tax may apply in Illinois. 21-plus age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Restrictions apply. Bet must win to receive bonus bets which expire in 7 days. Minimum odds required. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio. Limited time offer. All right. Next up in our Week 9 review show is Washington beating number 23 Illinois 42-25. Let's go over the highest graded players, starting off with the Washington Huskies. Denzel Boston, talk about him later on, 89.1 grade for maybe the first round pick at wide receiver. Rayshawn Clark, the corner, 83.9. Zadrius Rainey-Sale, the linebacker, 78.1. Ephesians Prysock, the cornerback, 75.7. Carver Willis, 71.6, the offensive tackle, and DeMond Williams with a 70.6 grade at quarterback. Let's go over to Illinois with their highest grade players in the loss. Tanner Arkin, the tight end, 74.7. Hank Beatty, the wide receiver, 69.8. J.C. Davis, the offensive tackle, 69.3. Angelo McCullum, the D tackle, 65.2. The other offensive tackle, and Melvin Priestley, 64. And Luke Altmaier, 72.4. Dalton, what told the story in this game?
Okay, so life was far, far too easy for Damon Williams Jr. in this game. And we've talked about in their previous losses, okay, you got to do two things. Number one, make him hand the football off on the read options. And Jonah Coleman's really good. You still have to tackle Jonah Coleman. It's not like that makes it any easier, but you'd rather have him between the tackles and work through that than having Damon outside in the explosives. And number two, and this is the bigger one, you got to attack outside in with Damon Williams and keep him in the pocket and pressure him like that, right? That's a great theory, but it doesn't work if you don't get to him. And Illinois never got to him. No sacks in this game. Damon Williams dropped back 37 times in this game. He was pressured on 4 of them. 4 out of 37, less than 11% pressure rate. Illinois right now, what you're seeing with their defense, and Williams, I mean, you look at him even under pressure, threw 1 pass, a touchdown, and scrambled 3 other times because they just couldn't bring him down. But Illinois right now, what's happened to their defense, a combination of obviously just inconsistency and injury, is that their struggles in coverage, and I believe they're a bottom 15 team in the country in coverage grade. Their struggles in coverage have now handcuffed their pass rush and the way they want to run their defense. You know, we're so used to seeing the 5-man rush and the aggressive cover one, the man coverage, and in the way the aggressive manner that Illinois plays their defense. That's not a thing lately. Their last 3 games, they've had under a 30% blitz rate in all 3 of them. They can't send the 5-man rush. They can only send 4, and they have to help out and run more zone coverage and play a more conservative style of defense they're not used to. And honestly, outside of Gabe Akis, there's just not another threat. There's not another pass rush threat. And if you're talking about Akis at times rushing from the inside, that doesn't do you a whole lot of good with Damon Williams Jr. If you're pass rushing Damon Williams, you have to rush from the edges and then inward. Never happened. His life was way too easy in this game. The grade, a little bit lower, a 70, a 66 passing grade, really just because of 2 turnover-worthy plays. One of them particularly bad where a linebacker had an easy interception he dropped. But he was really good outside of those 2 throws. And the fact that he was basically back there playing 7-on-7 gave him too many chances to just carve up this defense.
Yeah, and a big reason the offensive line really helped them out on offense, obviously, in this game, and also Washington was so efficient in this one, too. They were perfect 6 for 6 in the red zone. They scored a touchdown on all 6 of their red zone drives, which made up, of course, all 42 of their points in this game. Extremely efficient offense all game for Washington, and obviously a big part of that was the offensive line dominating the way they did. 0.392 EPA per play, 0.677 EPA per pass, 6.9 yards per play, 9 for 11 on third down in this one, too. They kept drives alive, too. So just an extremely, extremely efficient game from the Huskies offense, and this is looking like right now, Dalton, one of the better offenses that we have in the entire country.
Oh, absolutely. You look at Williams and the way he can play, a dual threat air and ground. Jonah Coleman, Denzel Boston's obviously great. I mean, you're talking about a team that all of a sudden, I think you look at the implication for these 2 teams. Now, Washington sticks around, because we said this is probably an elimination game, right? Washington sticks around. Their next 3 are Wisconsin, Purdue, UCLA. You could walk into a home game with Oregon, with Damon Williams playing the way he's been playing this year, a home game with Oregon at 9-2, and if you got 10-2 with a win over Oregon, a win over Illinois, and your 2 losses are Ohio State and in the big house at Michigan, and great, I'm glad you brought up the red zone thing too, because a theme, especially I thought in the Ohio State game, was they made a lot of plays, they didn't finish drives.
Yeah.
You finishing drives, this is the difference. You can beat really good teams when you finish in the red zone, but heavily favored, I think, in their next 3. UCLA's tricky, but what Indiana did to them was, well, that was kind of unfair, but that's a different wagon altogether. But they should be favored pretty easily in their next 3 games. So you win those 3 and you're 9-2 with Oregon coming into town. Husky Stadium is still hard to win at.
Yeah.
We've seen this before with Washington and Oregon. It's not Nix and Penix.
Huge rivalry game, too.
Huge. And in Husky Stadium, it's not Nix.
Cascade Clash.
It is not. Is that what they call it? Or
Yeah.
That's the name for it? That's pretty good, actually.
Yeah.
I don't mind that. You get 10-2 with a win over Oregon to end your season. You're thinking about some things. Washington's a dark horse team that all of a sudden needs to be talked about because you feel good about them against Wisconsin, feel good about them against Purdue, feel pretty good about them against UCLA. That cooled off yesterday a bit. That Oregon game at the end could be looming large, and we'll see where Oregon's at in their state of mind, and they're still trying to get to the Big Ten title game if one of those other 2 teams can lose. But now this Washington situation, This is a real one now. This is fun. They had to win one of these two games between Michigan and Illinois. They're alive, and Illinois at this point they're just not.
No,
Three losses already. Their best win is USC. Duke was an okay win on the road, obviously, but an Illinois 9-3 team with that schedule and their remaining wins, there's not much left to go that impresses you too much in their last four. I think just a lot of injuries, especially on defense, really hurt Illinois this year.
Yeah.
And it just wasn't. Altmaier's played great, even around their offensive line issues, but they just have they have more flaws on defense this year, partly because of the injuries than we thought they would, and that's really cost them so far.
Yeah, and especially with all the teams that you look at right now, like I mentioned before, in the Big 12 and ACC too, that could have one or two losses in the year. I mean, 9-3 Illinois is dead right now. They are out of the playoff race.
And I think for the Big Ten standings, things got very interesting this week as we got some interesting matchups in general, just in the second tier of this. That you had two lost teams in Iowa playing Minnesota. Iowa beat them convincingly. You have next week. Boy, you want a big game. You got USC Nebraska next week. That's an elimination game, but the winner could have a road to 10-2 there. Michigan, obviously, the Ohio State game looming, but if they ever won that game again, what are we doing with a 10-2 Michigan with a win over Ohio State? There's a lot still to talk about here in this second tier of the Big Ten, but Washington certainly set themselves the right to at least be a factor in that.
Yep. Who was the most impressive part for you in this game?
I mean, let's go with the redshirt freshman corner in the slot, Rashawn Clark, because you're talking about a position in Washington's defense where they've really struggled in coverage all year. And this, Clark really stepped up in this game. An interception in fourth quarter, a pass breakup, did not allow a catch in this game. Targeted 3 times, did not allow a catch, 87.5 coverage grade. That makes a big difference in their defense. It's a position where they've been struggling all year. This was the highest grade of his career so far. And if he can step up and start stacking good weeks together in the slot for them against some teams they're playing in the next couple weeks that aren't great passing teams, then you talk about, okay, I feel good about this nickel position going into that last Oregon game. But one game at a time. Washington, a huge game, a huge win this week. You got 3 more that you still got to take care of business. At Wisconsin is always tricky with their defense and that environment, but you really like what they're doing on both sides of the ball. We need to give their defense here some credit too. They make turnovers happen when it matters. The front seven's been good this year, and Rashawn Clark in the slot, that could be a big difference if he gets hot now down the stretch.
Yeah, he was the second highest graded player in this one. I'm going to shout out the highest graded player. That is Denzel Boston. He showed exactly why he could be a first-round pick in this upcoming NFL draft. Career high 10 catches for a career high 153 yards and a touchdown. How about this, Dalton? Also threw a 12-yard touchdown pass to Jonah Coleman in this one too. He forced 3 missed tackles after the catch. He is a matchup nightmare for defenses as an X receiver at 6'4", 209 pounds with the fluidity he has at wide receiver too. The 3-headed monster that Washington has on their offense, it's Damon Williams at quarterback, Jonah Coleman at running back, and Denzel Boston at receiver, is incredible right now. It might be, and I want to ask you, Dalton, is this the best quarterback, running back, receiver trio that we have in the entire country? Ohio State maybe.
It's up there. I mean, I like what Bo Jackson's been giving Ohio State. Indiana and just all the guys that they have. When you look at, I mean, if it's Roman Hemby or Kalen Black, they're really good. I'll tell you what, if Le'Veon Moss is healthy for A&M, and even some of those other backs they have, Ruben Owens been really good. But when Le'Veon Moss is healthy and you've got Reed and Moss and then take your pick at receiver with those 2 guys. I mean, but that's the company we're talking about keeping here. I mean, you're talking about those are well, again, we've done this before. They're the top 3 teams in the country, right? Yep. I mean, you talk about that level of talent from these 3 guys. Williams is awesome. Coleman just keeps you on schedule constantly. And Boston, obviously the big playmaker. Apparently he can throw now too. I mean, anybody thinking, Boston's always reminded me a lot of Jaden Higgins, and he was a borderline first rounder last year. He's probably going to be a first rounder in this class.
I would shout out the USC trio of Mayava, Waymon Jordan, and Mekhi Lemon.
Yeah, when Jordan's healthy as well.
Yeah, when Jordan's healthy, he's really good too. So yeah, I think it's certainly up there though with Williams and Coleman and Boston. They are a fantastic trio that Washington has on their offense right now. And like I mentioned before, Dalton, the Huskies right now, playoff sleeper, because all they got to do, and I know it's saying a lot, they got to beat Oregon, but Wisconsin, Purdue, UCLA, then all of a sudden that last game of the year against Oregon could be a win and in for Washington to make the college football playoff.
We've seen him do it before. It's not Michael Penix, but
yeah.
We've seen him do it in big spots against Oregon before, and I know that, obviously that was Kalen DeBoer, and this is Jed Fish, and this is Damon Williams, but Williams has that type of talent where he can take a game over for sure.
Absolutely. So big win for Washington, killing Illinois' playoff hopes and keeping theirs alive with a 42-25 victory over the Fighting Illini. All right, let's go over to the next game, get to the Big 12 now, with number 11 BYU storming back and beating Iowa State 41-27. How about this, Dalton? I predicted BYU to win, and they won.
Oh, you were sweating.
I was sweating.
You were sitting upstairs sweating this one. You're like, oh, what did I do?
Yeah.
I thought you were going to go and piss off a pretty big fan base we have out there in Provo.
No, we're cool now. Me and BYU fans are cool now because before
the curse is broken.
The curse is broken.
I don't even know if it was ever on, but
it was on because every time I picked against BYU won, and I picked for BYU in this one, and now they won this game too. So hopefully we're cool now. Me and the BYU faithful.
You got bailed out by the Bear.
I did.
That's what happened there.
I did. I got bailed out by Bear Bachmeier, of course. BYU, how about this? 8-0 in back-to-back seasons for the first time in program history that they've done that.
Long history, too.
That's, long and rich history that BYU has in that program, too. So the first time ever they started off 8-0 in back-to-back years. Let's go to the highest-graded players, starting off with the BYU Cougars. Their highest-graded player was edge rusher Logan Latui, 85.7. Evan Johnson, the cornerback, 78.7. Wide receiver Parker Kingston, 74.1. Edge rusher Viliami Pauha, 72.1. And defensive tackle John Tamopeau with a 68.7 grade. And you mentioned before, Bear Bachmeier, 81.7 grade for the true freshman quarterback. Iowa State, meanwhile, their highest grade players in the loss and their third straight loss. Now, linebacker Cooper Ebel, 76.7. Carson Hansen, 74.8. Marcus Neal Jr., the safety, 72.4. Tight end Benjamin Bramer, 70.7. Jamison Patton, the corner, 69.2. And Rocco Becht, 65.7, who threw a career-high 3 interceptions in this loss for the Cyclones. Dalton, what told the story in this game?
All right, so every week for BYU, every single week, it's just been, especially with Bear Bachmeier, a true freshman quarterback, it's just been another step and another step and another. Okay, now we're going to go win a big road game. All right, now we got a 14-point comeback against Colorado. Now we got a fourth quarter comeback against Arizona. Now we got the rivalry game against Utah. And I think the one thing missing from the profile, remember I've been talking about this for a while, how it was good. It was the run game, and he was one of the best play-action passers in the country. Okay, and there was a lot that went wrong for BYU, as you mentioned, probably your fault. As in the first half of this game, there was a lot that went wrong for BYU. They were falling for the Max Chadwick curse here. But Bear Bachmeier, the one thing that was left in the profile was, okay, can you be this productive a passer this early in your career without play action? And if the run game isn't going great, right? And if we're not dominating on the ground, because I figured if BYU was going to win like this, especially score 41 points, well, they were going to run for 250, 300 yards like they've been doing in some of these games with L.J. Martin, right, as the engine. That's everything we talked about in the preview. And then you get to the play action, and Bear plays the complementary role. And that's, I think, the big thing to say about it is the first 7 games, he played the complementary role as the true freshman. This was the first game we saw him put the team on his back. And the best number I have for it is an 83.4 passing grade without play action. The development there, if that sticks, now I feel like, oh, shoot, Bear Bachmeier could, in a couple weeks, go to Texas Tech and win. Yep. They can go undefeated. They could do who knows what with the magic going on in BYU this year, carrying over even more so than they had last year, which is just nuts to say because last year was crazy too. But no play action, 83.4 passing grade, 15 of 22, 188 yards, 2 touchdowns, a big-time throw, and even when he had to scramble, took off 3 times, got 2 first downs out of it. That is the biggest thing for me. And against a darn good Iowa State defense that's very sound and we know can cover. And obviously he's got clean pockets to work with the 3-man rush, but it's still not easy throwing into drop 8 and everybody's staring at you, and you're down by multiple scores in this game. Now that we have seen this, with Bear Bachmeier carrying them back from the depths and L.J. Martin getting hurt early in this game, and the run game for BYU really became you could not draw up the first quarter and a half of this game worse for BYU. Even more so, okay, they fall behind in Colorado by 14, but they still have enough time to run the football, and Colorado makes their mistakes. Arizona, they're down 10 late, but some special teams saying things help them out. They still stay in good field position. They still won that game running the football. They couldn't do it in this game. And the fact that they won anyway, and convincingly, at that. What was it, a 31-7 run, was it?
Yeah.
To do it convincingly on the back of your true freshman quarterback. Now, this game makes me look at BYU. They were already good. We knew they were good. The defense is good. LJ Martin, all that. This game makes you look at them different. This is a different level now if Bachmeier can now stack this type of performance and they can just drop back and throw the football.
Yeah. And I'm going to shout him right here for most impressive, Bear Bachmeier, because when LJ Martin went down with an injury in this game, you and I both looked at each other like,
you were screwed.
Yeah,
at that point. You were done for.
That's a top 10 running back in the country right now in LJ Martin, the way he's playing. And when he went down and did not come back from that injury, and hopefully he's okay because they need him some big games coming up soon. But when he went down, I didn't know if Bear Bachmeier could carry this offense to victory, and he did just that with an 81.7 grade. He threw for 307 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks, 2 big-time throws, 1 turnover-worthy play. He also led BYU with 60 rushing yards and a rushing touchdown, like I mentioned before, in a game where LJ Martin got hurt. He proved, without play action, that he can carry this offense. Without Martin in this one. He played really a clean brand of football, and the difference was he did that. Rocco Beck did not do that, like I mentioned before, with a career-high 3 interceptions. That's a major reason why BYU won this game. They had the better quarterback in this game.
And BYU's defense, you talk about that 31-7 run, the 7 side of that still stands. Their defense has been outstanding all year, and it was after the first 20, 25 minutes, they were outstanding, especially in the second half of this game. 2 more numbers to throw at you from Bachmeier. How about 5 for 6 on the deep ball, 20 or more air yards? And how about, look, Iowa State, they're known for not sending too much pressure, but they felt like they had to in this game. Got blitzed 44% of the time, 10 of 15 against the blitz. The composure now, and I told you, it's, I know, but, before you were talking about when you had them ranked like a little bit lower than you might expect, and like the resume, and Colorado's not a great team, and Arizona's not a great team, right? But it's more about the development of this kid in these situations that now, like to me, a big reason they won this game in this adversity is because they won the Colorado game down 14 early, is because they won the Arizona game down 10 and double overtime and all of that, because he can go in there. Now, this situation, albeit early in the game and the LJ Martin injury didn't help, this situation now is not new to Bear Bachmeier. If they go to Texas Tech and they're down 10, now that's a great defense and that's a whole different animal. But this isn't different. They were down to Utah 14-10. Pretty late in that game, right? It's not new to him anymore. And you can see when you watched him in this game, the composure and just the sheer calm that he has, whether he's in the pocket or outside of it. This is special what we're seeing right now at BYU with this quarterback.
Yeah, actually it was a 31-3 run that BYU
31-3. I mean, yeah. I'd credit the defense. I mean, Evan Johnson with another pick. The linebackers, as always, are great. I mean, they just stepped it up. They can clamp you down on defense, especially their secondary is outstanding, isn't it? I mean, but all the way, they play team football, but you have a quarterback playing like this now. This is and now you get a bye week going into Texas Tech in 2 weeks, which suddenly becomes, I mean, you got a couple of huge games. You got Texas Tech and Cincinnati coming up both on the road here in the last few weeks of the season, but all of a sudden you believe like, their quarterback can get them through some things now.
Absolutely.
This is unbelievable performance from him.
Yeah, I mean, right now, Bear Bachmeier is closing in on Malik Washington to be the highest graded true freshman quarterback in the country right now.
Oh, he'll do it with more games like this.
Yeah, 80.4 for Malik Washington and a 79.5 overall grade for Bear Bachmeier. Really, the stat for me is just BYU in the second half, man. Because Iowa State stormed out of the gates, like Dalton said, and took a 24-10 lead in the first half, and they looked very much in command of the game. BYU responded late in the second quarter to go down 24-17 into halftime, and then, like I mentioned before, 24-3 run in the second half. They held Iowa State to negative 0.4 EPA per play in the second half. Had a back-breaking pick 6 for Iowa State by Falatau Satuala. Also picked off Rocco Beck again in that second half. 2 of his 3 interceptions came in that second half of the game. They have pulled off comebacks like these all season long, and they never seem to blink right now. And that's why, for the second straight year, BYU is 8-0 to start the season.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I think I saw somebody on Twitter just dub them the cardiac Cougars, which I mean, this is used for just about any team apparently. But I just think that's it. Is they are not daunted by any means, and they have not been. Kalani Sitake's not been afraid of his true freshman quarterback. They have found a way. Aaron Roderick's done what an outstanding job too this year that Aaron Roderick has done.
Yep.
Working this kid in little by little, heavy run game, heavy play action, and then in this game going, hey, all right, this one's on you, dude. You want a big road win in a place that's very hard to win in Ames? Let's go. And it was time to do it. They didn't have – I like that they didn't have to do that in the third and fourth game. It's the 8th game of the year for them, and they didn't have to do that till now, and he was ready for that moment. Unbelievable stuff. And I'll tell you, you know me, watching BYU games the last few weeks, my most impressive guy. Give me Parker Kingston any day of the week, whether it's receiving, punt returns. He's one of the best punt returners in the country. And there were questions outside of Chase Roberts what this team was going to do at receiver. They lost Darius Lassiter. They lost Keelan Marion. He transferred to Miami. And who's going to be the number 2 aside from Roberts? Parker Kingston's that guy.
And Marion was a returner, too, for them, too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, so Kingston had to take over that role. But 7 catches in this game, 133 yards, 2 touchdowns. Now he can make contested catches. He's a great route runner. He's got at least 110 yards in 3 of his last 4 games. He's become, I almost want to say, 1 and 1A with Chase Roberts. And Roberts had a great game in this one, too. But what Parker Kingston is adding and the chemistry that he clearly has with Bachmeier on these deep shots, if that's what we're going to get this version of Parker Kingston on top of the punt returns, he had a huge punt return against Arizona that was a huge play in that game. This offense hits another gear with Bachmeier and with Kingston as the number 2 here. Just a great day for BYU, man. Going into a bye week and then this final stretch, a tough stretch, but they've got every shot to win the Big 12 with their quarterback playing like this and Parker Kingston playing like this on the outside.
Yeah, it's a great shout out because BYU, man, the next man up mentality, I think, embodies that program right now. Because remember, obviously, Jake Retzloff leaving the program in the summer with all the controversy surrounding him. So their star quarterback leaves the program in the summer. You have a true freshman in Barrett Bachmeier transferred to BYU in May after going to Stanford for a little bit, right? So a true freshman quarterback who's barely been on campus for only a couple months before he starts his first game. And he's done great so far. You mentioned Parker Kingston filling in for Keelan Marion. Keelan Marion was our first-team All-American return specialist going into the year, transferring to Miami. So you lose an All-American returner, and you have Parker Kingston filling in for him too. So this next man up every single time for BYU. It was really the story of them last year. It's the story of them this year too. And just shout out Kalani Sitake and what he's doing in that program right now, man. It cannot be overstated how amazing of a job he has done at that program over the last couple of years. And like I said, BYU, the only undefeated team left right now in the Big 12, and they could be on their way to their first college football playoff appearance in program history.
What a game we've got in 2 weeks against Texas Tech. What a game. I can't wait for it. I mean, we're just getting – it feels like we're getting a different game of the year.
They play Cincy, too.
And they play Cincy in November here in Cincinnati. That's going to be –
we have to go to that game.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Maybe the most surprising huge game of the year is going to be BYU-Cincinnati. But yeah.
There's talk about Cincinnati hosting game day for that game.
We'll see.
That'd be pretty electric.
Both of them keep up the momentum.
That
see
would
where
be
it goes.
pretty electric.
It very well could be for a spot in the Big 12 title game for sure.
Absolutely. Massive, massive win for BYU, though, coming back and beating Iowa State 41-27. Even though BYU once again entered the game as underdogs, they win over Iowa State. Maybe next time they won't be underdogs in their next matchup. We'll see, though.
And now you can pick them comfortably.
Now I can't pick them comfortably.
You can feel pretty good about it.
I didn't feel comfortable picking them because I knew what I was doing with BYU faithful, but now I could do it. Now I can be an objective analyst with them, too. All right. Next up, another Big 12 game, another major Big 12 game. Houston beating number 24 Arizona State 24-16. Let's go over the highest graded players, starting off with the Houston Cougars. Tight end Tanner Koziel, 78.1. Edge rusher Eddie Walls III, 75.2. Cornerback Will James, 73.7. Safety Kentrell Webb, 66.5. Running back Dean Connor, 66.2. And Connor Wigman with a 85.7 grade in the win. Talk about him later on. Arizona State with their highest grade players in the loss. Wide receiver Malik McClain had to step up in absence of Jordan Tyson with a 73.1 grade. Edge rusher Justin Watley, 72.6. Miles Rouser, the safety, 71.9. Edge rusher Elijah O'Neal, 71.4. Chemin Mateer, the tight end, 71.2. And then Sam Levitt with a 70.5 grade in the loss. Dalton, what's the whole story in this game?
The same story for me it's been for Arizona State the entire year. Is they abandoned the run game, and to me, that just threw off everything. Now, Sam Levitt got hurt early in this game, and Jeff Sims came in, and then Levitt came back out, and then he got hurt again later, and Sims finished. It was a whole mess with the quarterback situation, but look, it seemed like when Houston went up 10-0 by the end of the first quarter that Arizona State just decided, nope, we're not running the ball, and Sam Levitt, you're going to have to save us again without Jordan Tyson. And honestly, The minute that we heard, was it maybe Friday, that Jordan Tyson was out of this game, I immediately regretted picking Arizona State. Because I thought with Tyson, this was going to be a dogfight with this what Willie Fritz has this Houston defense doing, man. I mean, they are so good at preventing explosive plays. They're physical up front. Carlos Allen, Eddie Walls, and those guys, they're great tacklers. They rally to the football. You're not going to beat this Houston team unless you bring a level of physicality like Texas Tech did earlier in the year when they beat them. You better be ready to go. And Arizona State, when they abandoned the run game, look at this, 14 design runs on the night, 53 dropbacks. Houston is daring you to play like that. They're to go into their secondary that just does not give up big plays. They're daring you to do that. That is the fewest design runs in a game. And 5 of those 14 were on the very first drive in the first quarter. That's the fewest in any game under Kenny Dillingham. 14 design runs. They're not going to win like that.
It feels like his offense is, and we'll talk about Houston more in a second, but it feels like Kenny Dillingham's offense is like, I'm not saying it's a high school offense, but I'm saying it's high school-ish in the fact that like they're so reliant on their superstars. Like last year was Cam Scadden and Jordan Tyson.
Yeah.
Jordan Tyson is the top guy this year. It feels like if any of those guys are out, they're lost offensively.
Yeah, and Raleek Brown is really good, and he it's not like he ran poorly in this game. He just didn't get the football very much. They're not. This has been a concern since I think the preseason for us, is in the passing game especially, because if you don't have that second threat in the passing game, you get what you have here where, if Jordan Tyson pulls a hammy, what do we have left? Oh, nothing. Oh, that's a problem. Okay. Yeah. And Raleek Brown, I love Raleek Brown. He's a really good player. He's not Cam Scadden, right? So there had to be an element of this where they needed – because here's another thing, okay? Their run – and I've done this before on this show. I've done it multiple times already. We're going to do it again. Last year, they ran the ball 51.7% of the time, all right? 23rd, top 25 in the country. This year, that's under 40%. They're 109th in the country in run rate. And to me, they've never really – the Texas Tech game, you needed the Levitt heroics because you weren't beating that front seven. Fine. But I said it in the preview. If they come out and do this and they just say, hey, Sam, it's all on you, especially we didn't even know – I said that with assuming Jordan Tyson would be in the lineup.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's how you would lose this game. Now you don't have Tyson – and you get down 10-0 early, and you abandon the run altogether. I just has not been the same rhythm, the same flow to this Arizona State offense this year. And then Levitt, look, most of his great plays are out of structure. There's just not a ton in structure in this offense that's working consistently this year. It makes for high variance. You can come back against TCU and teams like that, but when you do this every single week and everything is just, hey, our best plays are out of structure, you're going to get the highs of beating a team like Texas Tech because Levitt's very talented, and you're going to get the lows of being shut out through 3 quarters in a game like this against a team that knows as well as anybody in the country right now how to prevent explosive plays. And I want to credit this Houston defense. This is a real force. You talk about BYU's defense. Cincinnati's defense is good. We know about Texas Tech. Houston's defense is a real force. They are a problem every single week if you're playing against them because they do not give up big plays.
Something that's been a problem for Houston all year has been their pass protection. It was not a problem. It was a problem for Arizona State in this game. How about Houston with a 92.7 pass blocking grade in the win for the Cougars? Mentioned in the preview how Houston went into the week with the worst pass blocking grade in the entire Power 4. But I did mention, too, that Arizona State's pass rush was outside the top, I think, 110 in pressure rate this year, and their top pass rusher, Prince Dorbaugh, also did not play. So injuries hurt Arizona State, but even so, I did not expect Houston to dominate in pass protection like they did. This pass blocking grade, Dalton, is exactly 25 points higher than anything Houston's done all year. Best game for Houston in pass protection since the East Carolina game in 2017, 8 years ago, was the last time that Houston had a pass blocking grade better than this 92.7 mark in this one. Only one pressure allowed on 24 snaps. That one pressure allowed was allowed by the offensive guard, James Brooks Jr. That was actually a sack, too, on Connor Wigman. Dalton, we actually have a stat at PFF, too, called beaten by defender. That was the only time a Houston pass blocker was beaten by a defender. So they didn't have a single loss. If you wonder what a beaten by defender is, it's basically, okay, did you lose your block and it didn't end up in a pressure? That's never happened in this game. It happens usually a lot in other games. It did not happen. So that one pressure allowed by Houston was the only time an offensive lineman, a tight end, a running back, whoever was blocking, failed their rep, honestly. So incredible job by Houston's offensive line and their tight ends and their running backs for just completely shutting down Arizona State's pass rush. And I'll talk about him in just a second, but that led to Connor Wigman having a really career performance.
No, it was what it is with Wigman now, and you mentioned he was only under pressure total 4 times all night, and the offensive line.
3 of them were his fault.
Yeah. Just holding, sometimes you hold the ball too long or you scramble, things happen. But, just like the Washington game, you go 4 times for an entire game. That's pretty good. What you're getting with Wigman that I kind of like with him is they're not asking him to do too much. He's only got 30 pass attempts once in a game this year. So, look, they're running the football with Dean Connors. They're running the ball with Wegman. Tanner Koziol, big factor in this game, 100 yards. Amari Thomas has become an occasional big play guy for them. But I like this toughness now that Wegman has, don't you? I mean, just with the designed run game and what they ask him in the biggest moments, hey, we're going to run quarterback power, man. This one's going to be on you. And it feels like just a different attitude than he had at Texas A&M, where it just seemed to be more finesse, and they wanted him to throw the ball 45 times a game and be really that guy with his arm. But I think he's embracing this mentality. But the pass protection is so big because even if you're only throwing the ball, say, 25 times a game, if you're under pressure on half of those, you're really cutting down your opportunities to get anything through the air. And they're not a flashy team through the air. They make a handful of plays a game that make a difference, whether it's Koziol or Thomas or even at times Wigman as a scrambler. But the fact that's a big difference. And you mentioned Dorba being out. Arizona State's pass rush is right now non-existent without him. He's really taken to the attitude of Willie Fritz and this Houston team. Defense, running the football, and make enough plays in the passing game. But you're right, the offensive line did their job in this one, really on both ends, running and passing.
Who was your most impressive part of Houston's win over Arizona State?
I'll tell you what, it's hard not to go with a guy who had 3 sacks and Eddie Walls on that defensive line. We talk a lot about this defensive line with Carlos Allen in the run defense, but Eddie Walls, first thing I want to point out, look, this is a 250-pound defensive end here. He played 70 out of the 73 snaps for Houston on defense in this game. You don't get defensive linemen playing whatever that might, 96, 97% of the snaps. So you don't get that too often. 70 pass rush grade. Actually, looking at some of the reps, that might go up in the review process in the All-22. 7 pressures, 3 sacks, one of their highest graded run defenders as well. 2 more pressures unofficially that he lost, one due to a penalty and one you don't count the official one on a 2-point conversion also. So really 9 pressures in this game and 3 sacks. And he made life difficult for Levitt. And I know Levitt likes to play out of structure, but you can't do it every play. But Eddie Walls, just outstanding stuff. Just one of many players who was just terrific for this Houston defense, and they really have been every week. This is one of the best defenses in the country. They're awesome.
Yeah, Eddie Walls is a guy that I love transferring into Houston going into the year. I think we actually shouted him out as the defensive player to know on that side of the ball, and he's been great for them this year too. So shout out him for having a great game against Arizona State. Got to shout out Connor Wigman, though, the quarterback with an 86.3 passing grade, 201 passing yards, and a touchdown, and 86% adjusted completion rate. He also ran for 118 yards and 2 touchdowns as well. Incredible job by Connor Wigman, who, has not been great overall in his career, former 5-star recruit at quarterback at Texas A&M, but he's turned it around, it seems like this year, a little bit at Houston when he gets pass protection, and Houston gave him clean pockets all game, and he took advantage of them in this one for Houston. So great job by him. And how about this, Dalton? Houston's schedule the rest of the year: West Virginia, UCF, TCU, Baylor. That's it right now. They have 1 loss.
Got to play the games, but you feel good about especially, again, it's their defense for me. And even offensively, they run this brand of offense that complements their defense, and they kind of just don't give the football away, right? And they're very good in short yardage situations, especially with Connors as a big power back and Wigman as a short yardage option. I mean, you look, and it's funny with the rushing because you go, they do it when they have to. And you look at some of these games. Colorado, 90 yards rushing. They kind of need it in that game. Give them a jolt, right? Last week against Arizona. This week against Arizona State, 21 carries for 118. He's really embraced his role on this team, and he doesn't have to carry them. And I think Willie Fritz has just done a great job of relaying to him, hey, I'm building this team on defense, and I'm building this team on physicality. You're not going to come here and throw for 350 every week like maybe they wanted you to, but we're going to win ball games. They're getting it done right now. And look, for all the talk of BYU, Cincinnati, Texas, this team's right in it. You're only one loss to Texas Tech. You're right in this thing. And with their defense, man, especially against those teams you just mentioned, this Houston pass defense is a real problem. Some of those teams, TCU and Baylor, are interesting, but you feel good about their chances to keep a lid on it.
And the fact that BYU still has to play Cincinnati and Texas Tech, and obviously Texas Tech has got to play BYU, Cincinnati's got to play BYU too. All of a sudden, Houston, the way they're looking with their schedule, they could have a pretty clean run to the Big 12 title game if they don't mess up the rest of the year.
Sure. I mean, if they're and even then, even the conversation, if let's say you get the two undefeateds, and well, you're not going to get two undefeateds because BYU's playing Cincy. So I mean, the tiebreakers might get weird, but even then, if they didn't make the Big 12 title game for whatever reason, and they're sitting 11-1, what do you do with them? I mean, you kind of. I don't know if you have to, but you almost feel like you kind of have to if their only losses to Texas Tech, who also could be top 12 at that point. I mean, you got to start talking about this Houston team and their chances to make the playoff, which this may be, of all the weird ones we've seen, the most surprising one. This one or maybe Virginia, because I just didn't think offensively Houston would have enough, but they have enough, and their defense is just outstanding. Yeah,
an incredible job by Willie Fritz right now in his second year at that program with a 7-1 record right now at Houston. Houston should be ranked, and they will be in the PFF Top 25, but they should be ranked in the AP Top 25, which would be their first ranking since 2022. So it's been 3 years since Houston has been ranked. They should be ranked this week after this big win over Arizona State. All right, the final game that we're going to review is number 22, Texas, surviving a scare from Mississippi State in overtime, 45-38. Let's go over the highest grade player, starting off with the Texas Longhorns. Highest grade player was edge rusher Ethan Burke, 77.5. Offensive tackle Trevor Gooseby, 75. Anthony Hill Jr., the star linebacker, 74.8. Center Connor Robertson, 71.8. Another 71.8 here. And Trey Moore, the edge rusher. And Arch Manning with a 78.9 grade. He was the highest graded Longhorn in the win for Texas. Now to Mississippi State. Their highest grade players, linebacker Zachary Tillman, 76.3. Another linebacker here, and Darion Gillette, 74.3. Cannon Boone, the center, 74.1. Kelly Jones, the corner, 73.1. Trevor Mayberry, the guard, 71.8. And Blake Shapen with a 64.2 grade at quarterback. Dalton, what told the story in this game for Texas and Mississippi State?
Well, you're going to get a lot into this fourth quarter, and rightfully so. Texas is hanging on for dear life is what they're doing, and certainly some tough games left to go. The Vandy next week, the Georgia game at Georgia looms large, Texas A&M, but for now they're hanging on for dear life, and one reason they could do that in this game, you're going to get into Arch Manning, all flash on the offensive side, but Texas run defense was still really good in this game, despite the 38 points they gave up, but that was mostly because breakdowns in the secondary. Blake Shapen played pretty well for most of this game, then there was some errors at the end of it. But a 77 run defense grade for Texas, 3.5 yards per design carry, allowed 24 stops in run defense and only 4 missed tackles. And in the second half, especially when you're behind and you have a team that just can't really run the football very well, second half of this game, Mississippi State, 12 carries, 34 yards. That just keeps you from allowing this team to milk the rest of the clock away when you're down. Was it 17 they were down? 38-21 they were down and then stormed all the way back. But when a team can't line up and just run the football on you and they got to throw it, the clock doesn't move quite as swiftly in those scenarios. So I do want to give credit, as you're going to get into all the rest of the circus for the second straight week here we have with Texas. But credit their run defense, especially Anthony Hill was outstanding in this game. Jelani McDonald was really good. Again, these are the moments where you go, all right, you still have to make stops. And they did make stops, and then it set up everything that you're going to talk about here with Arch Manning and even Matt Caldwell at the end of it throwing the winning touchdown, and just for the second straight week in different fashions, a whole lot of nonsense in one of these Texas games.
Yeah, Texas in the fourth quarter was incredible. And this one, it led to them tying the game and forcing overtime for the second straight week after going to overtime last week with Kentucky. Did it again this week with Mississippi State. So Texas was down 17 points in the fourth quarter with 12 minutes and 30 seconds left, and all hope looked lost for the Longhorns because obviously if they lost this game, their playoff hopes would have been dead if they lost this one. They scored on a 75-yard touchdown drive within 3 minutes, though, then forced a 3-and-out from the Bulldogs, scored a field goal within 4 minutes, forced another 3-and-out, and on that punt, Ryan Niblett scored on a 79-yard punt return touchdown with under 2 minutes left to go in the game to tie the ball game. With backs against the wall, Texas answered on the road in this one. .465 EPA per play for the Longhorns, negative .172 for Mississippi State in the fourth quarter of this ball game. Just, again, it feels like a lot of these games, Dalton, where a team just storms back either at the second half or in the fourth quarter like Memphis did against USF too. Just Texas is really the same thing, just a completely different team it looked like in the fourth quarter.
I mean, do you know how close we are to talking about Mississippi State as a legitimate playoff? Think about, was it double overtime against Tennessee?
Yep.
Right? The game against Florida last week where they were in field goal range and the interception to Micah Burrow, and then this game with a 17-point. Mississippi State is this close to being 7-1, and we're talking about them like we're talking about Vandy the same way. We're talking about Jeff Lebby like he's the coach of the year and all these things. And really, I mean, just some heartbreaking losses, obviously. But it's a young team. This is kind of the difference. And you kind of hope for their sake that they can, and they got a tough end of their schedule. Arkansas, Georgia, Missouri, Ole Miss. You hope for their sake in the year and the progress they've made that they can make a bowl game. That would feel like a big step for Mississippi State. But that's what comes with trying to get out of the doldrums there at the bottom of a conference, is learning how to win these types of games and playing all 60 minutes, or sometimes in two of these cases 60 minutes plus. It's a tough loss, but I'll tell you what, Texas, Arch Manning when he needed to be, and even Matt Caldwell when he needed to be, Texas was darn good enough to win this game.
Yeah. Who do you want to shout out as your most impressive for Texas?
I'll tell you what. Texas, there's a legitimate case that Texas season, and there was some other guys who played great, especially Anthony Hill on the defensive side. I think it was 9 pressures he had in this game. He just went crazy too at a certain point. Texas season might be dead without Ryan Niblett, the punt returner. I mean, 3 weeks in a row now. Think about this. 3 weeks in a row. The Oklahoma game, they're up 13-6. Tight defensive game, kind of ugly. He gets a punt return to put the game out of reach, 20-6. Boom. Against Kentucky last week, 2 long punt returns, didn't score on them, but set up 10 Texas points in a game that ended up 16-13. And then to tie this game with Texas, even so, down 7, last 5 minutes, Mississippi State can still just find a way, put a drive together, a couple first downs, wins it. And he ties the game and turns it all upside down again. I just got to credit this guy, not just for this game, but for the last 3 games. Texas season might be over without Ryan Niblett. So listen, if you don't think all 3 phases matter, they matter, because this guy, you could argue, has been the most important player on the field the last 3 weeks for Texas.
No, he saved the season with that punt return touchdown against Mississippi State. Yeah, he's been incredible for them. I want to shout out his quarterback because he plays wide receiver for Texas too. Arch Manning, man, had a really, really good ball game. He threw for 346 yards, 3 touchdowns, and an interception. That one pick, though, was not his fault because it was a pretty well-thrown ball to Parker Livingstone that was dropped and tipped up in the air to a defender. So that interception was not his fault. That's why we track turnover-worthy plays here at PFF. 2 big-time throws, 0 turnover-worthy plays for Arch Manning, and a 69.2 passing grade under pressure. It's actually a really, really good mark under pressure. 7 for 11 for 83 yards under pressure. He also ran for 29 yards and a touchdown in this one, too. He did get hurt, so it remains to be seen if he'll play this upcoming week in a major, major game against Vanderbilt. With again, Texas' season is on the line as it is every single week from here on out right now. He has not been the solution for Texas' offense this year, but he has also not been the biggest problem with Texas' offense this year either. I think Arch Manning is getting a little bit too much flack for how he's played this year. I think it's been overall decent for Texas, and in this one, he actually was really good, I think, for them too. So I want to shout out Arch Manning because I think he's gotten a lot of unnecessary hate this year. He's played a lot better than he's given credit for.
The big question now, because he played very well against Oklahoma despite it, not a gaudy stat total. Didn't play very well against Kentucky, then came back and bounced back. I would argue this was his best game of the year at the end result of it, and it took a while, but I would argue this was his best game of the year. Is he going to play next week? Sources say he suffered a concussion at the end when Caldwell had to come in and throw the winning touchdown pass. Are we going to see Arch Manning against Vanderbilt?
You have sources in the Texas program.
Not me, but the sources everywhere.
Or Porter is saying sources say. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, damn, you got contacts in Texas right now. All
right. We're getting there. We're working on it. We're always working on more sources, right? You've got sources.
The way you said that was like very Adam Schefter-like. I was like, damn. Okay.
Well, I don't want to just declare that he's got a concussion. I haven't talked to him. It's kind of that thing. thing. I got to just at least cover. It's just a disclaimer, the source's
Sure.
disclaimer. It works for everything.
So not your sources, but another reporter's sources.
Somebody's sources.
Somebody's sources. Okay.
Somebody in Texas says Arch Manning has a concussion, which that hit he took last night.
I
believe him. That's a believable thing from whatever source that is. But this is the question now. You got a huge game against Vandy next week, obviously for both teams. Vanderbilt didn't play them that bad last year either, if you remember that.
No, they didn't. They lost by 3, right?
I believe it was 3, yeah. Is it going to be Arch Manning or is it going to be Matt Caldwell? Can Caldwell do it? We've seen him a couple times this year. He's made some throws in a couple games, but can he do it for a full game with the way that Vandy's rolling right now, or are we going to get Manning? That's basically it. Is he going to be out there? Because that's going to make a big difference, especially with their offensive line still kind of struggling, especially to run the ball.
Yeah, it'll be really fascinating if they get him out there. Yeah, for sure. But overall, just a gutsy performance for Texas to win this ball game 45-38 in overtime and keep their season alive at least for one more week, as they got a major one coming up in Vanderbilt this upcoming week. All right, that wraps up the reviews, but not done with the show just yet, because we still have our Heisman segment where we're going to rank the top 5 Heisman candidates after week 9, and of course get into the brand new PFF Top 25 going into week 10 as well. Before we get to all that, though, got to talk with the sponsor of the show, that is Fabric by Gerber Life. Parenting is filled with high-pressure decisions, and it can be difficult to tell if we've made the right choice for your kid's future. But here's a simple decision that you can make today that could have a meaningful impact on your kid's future. That's opening a UGMA Kids Investment Account with Fabric to start their investment journey early and give them a financial head start. Fabric was designed by parents for parents to make it easy to plan for and manage your family's financial path. With a kids investment account from Fabric, you can start investing in your child's future today. There are no contribution limits, multiple tax advantages, and they're SIPC insured up to $500,000, plus no commission fees and just a low, flat monthly maintenance fee. Fabric has partnered with Gerber Life, trusted by millions of families like yours for over 50 years. Kids can't invest when they're minors, but a UGMA Kids Investment Account allows them to invest on their behalf now and gives their investments more time to grow. Join the thousands of parents who trust Fabric to protect their family. Start investing in your child today at meetfabric.com/PFFcollege. That's meetfabric.com/PFFcollege, meetfabric.com/PFFcollege. This is a paid promotion for the Fabric UGMA product and not for investment advisory services. Portfolios are managed by Fort Washington Investment Advisors Incorporated. Custodial services are provided by Apex Corporation. All investing is subject to risk. Terms may apply. Learn more at meetfabric.com. All right, Dalton. We are now 9 weeks in to the season. The Heisman race is heating up right now. So for the first time this year, what might be a recurring segment on the show, we're going to each give our Heisman top 5 going into week 10. So if we had a vote right now, and you had to vote right now for who should be in New York for the Heisman ceremony and who should win the Heisman Trophy, who would it be? So give me your top 5 after week 9.
All right, from the bottom. We'll go from the bottom up here. I don't know if Eli made a graphic for this, so I'll go bottom up here. Number 5. I got all quarterbacks. I went all quarterbacks here. There's definitely some other guys, especially even a couple of defensive guys I thought about putting in this 5th spot, but I'm going to go all quarterbacks. Number 5. Let's do it. The second highest graded quarterback in PFF right now. Cincinnati's Brendan Sorsby. I'm going to go with it. Look, the Bearcats are 7-1, and I say it again. Imagine how we'd be talking about them had they found a way to win that Nebraska game in week 1. We'd be on a whole different thing with undefeated Cincinnati and undefeated BYU. We'd be having a lot of fun. But this is another one, and there's a couple of guys like this where the rushing from Sorsby makes such a big impact. And on this offense, when you talk about having 3 legitimate rushing threats with him, Tawi Walker, Evan Pryor, and he's been really efficient as a passer and especially being safe with the football. Sorsby's been awesome this year. We'll see if that continues. But I decided him in the 5th spot, especially to roll with the grades.
Love that. All right.
Number 4, I've got Fernando Mendoza from Indiana. Obviously been outstanding. I thought he was solid enough against UCLA this week. I don't think he carried the show. Indiana ran the ball really well. They got a pick 6 from Aiden Fisher right at the jump of the game. The game was basically over before it started, but Mendoza's playing really well. Number 3, I've got Diego Pavia. A little quieter this week, 17-10 win, a little bit ugly. The Alabama loss and the 2 turnovers in that game still kind of stick with you a little bit. But again, the impact that he has as a passer, as a rusher, and just as the leader of that football team, big time. Number 2, Ty Simpson from Alabama.
Okay.
Not flashy this week. Same thing. It's kind of a theme. Did enough, but you talk about 4 top 20 wins. He was not the reason they lost that Florida State game. That was much more about their defense and difficulties in the trenches. I'm going to go with Ty Simpson there, and if Alabama wins the SEC, that's going to be a fun case. And number 1, he didn't play this week, but give me the guy leading the nation in passing grade, adjusted completion rate, the most accurate quarterback in the country. Give me Julian Sayin from Ohio State. Didn't see him this week, but he just continues to me this year so far. And the Texas game, I think, got him through just a hard game in his first start against a really good defense. I think Sayin's been flawless this year so far. And I know he's got 2 great receivers on the outside and a great team he's dealing with, but he has played such clean football. I'm in on it.
Love that. All right, my number 5. We have 4 of the top 5 similar, but not number 5. My number 5, I'm sticking with Ruben Bain Jr., the edge rusher at Miami, who, by the way, had another great game against Stanford last night. 87.6 PFF grade with a 90.7 pass rush grade. I'm so sick of the sack argument for Ruben Bain because he has 3 sacks this year. Watch the tape. This guy has been incredibly disruptive for Miami all year. He is still the highest graded player in college football right now with a 94.7 PFF grade. That's up there with the likes of like Aiden Hutchinson and Chase Young right now. Now, do I think he's still the Heisman Trophy favorite like we had a couple weeks ago? No. That's why he's number 5 for me right now. But I still think he deserves a lot of credit for what he's done with Miami this year, and he's still the highest graded player in college football. At number 4 for me is Fernando Mendoza. So both of you and I, Dalton, have – actually, darn, number 4 for me is Ty Simpson, actually the quarterback at Alabama, who wasn't great yesterday against South Carolina, but he has been great for them all season long. He is one of the he's right now 23rd in PFF grade this year. After that game against South Carolina, he's 18th in passing grade. So went down a little bit after that game, but still, he deserves a lot of credit for what he's done with that hard schedule Alabama's had too. He's still very much in the Heisman race. At number 3 for me is Fernando Mendoza. So actually, the Heisman Trophy favorite for overall Dalton is 4 and 3 for us right now. So we do not agree with Mendoza being the Heisman favorite, but I get why he is, because he has been fantastic for Indiana this year. He has 24 touchdown passes, which are the most in college football right now. He also has the highest passer rating in college football right now at 134.3. He's been great this year for Indiana, 85.7 PFF grade as well. At number 2 for me is Diego Pavia, the quarterback at Vanderbilt. Again, like Ty Simpson, not a great game for Pavia this past week against Missouri, but still got a win nonetheless, and it was a massive win for Vanderbilt. Right now, Diego Pavia is 18th in PFF grade this year among all quarterbacks in the country. He's 11th in passing grade this year as well. And for the simple fact of, if he leads Vanderbilt to the college football playoff, this guy needs to go to New York for the Heisman ceremony, if not win the Heisman Trophy right now. He has been phenomenal in 2 years for them, and it's a lot about narrative for the Heisman Trophy, and I don't know if there's a better narrative in college football than Vanderbilt going to the college football playoff this year. But at number 1, you mentioned before, Julian Sayin, the quarterback at Ohio State, 92 PFF grade right now, the best among all quarterbacks in the country, best passing grade in the country, best adjusted completion rate in the country right now too. And right now he's completed 80% of his passes. If that stands, that would be the all-time record for all quarterbacks too. So he's the quarterback on the number 1 team in America right now, and he's also the best quarterback in America right now. Julian Sayin, what he is doing as a redshirt freshman is unbelievable. It feels like that guy does not miss right now.
Pressure's going to be on him to win the Michigan game, and then there's a looming, very real possibility that we get Sayin versus Mendoza, not just for the Big Ten title game, but for the Heisman in Indianapolis that first week of December. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch down the stretch. Throwing it out there, just some other guys, if we extended this out to 8 or 10. Did think about Ruben Bain also for that 5th spot. I think a couple other defensive players, David Bailey and Jacob Rodriguez, both for Texas Tech, could get at least some votes. And then some other quarterbacks. Haynes King for Georgia Tech needs to be.
He was almost 5 for me, yeah.
Haynes King, Dante Moore, I still think shouldn't be forgotten about, although a quiet game in the pouring rain. I don't know if you watched any of that.
Yeah.
It was just downpouring in Oregon yesterday. Joey Aguilar has been great. Trinidad Chambliss, if he walks in there off the bench and brings Ole Miss to the playoff, he's got to be at least top, to me, 6 or 7.
Yeah.
I mean, for what he's done for that team. Blake Horvath from Navy having another great year might get some votes too. So, no, it's a wide open race right now, but I do think Sayin versus Mendoza could be looming there at the end to really decide this. That could be a possibility.
Yeah, Marcel Reed's been, I think, overall solid for Texas A&M this year. I know right now he's fourth in Heisman odds. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think the team around him has been phenomenal this year. He's been pretty good too. I'm not denying that. But I don't know if he should be fourth in odds, but he's still been a great player for them. Gunnar Stockton's been pretty good for them too. But yeah, Haynes King, I think, deserves a lot of love. Jeremiah Love, speaking of love, has been phenomenal for Notre Dame this year too. So I think, yeah, those are some of the guys right now that should be mentioned in the conversation. But that wraps up our Heisman top 5 for the week, which should be changing every single week as we get closer and closer to December, where they'll award the next Heisman Trophy winner. Dalton, like I mentioned before, the upset picks all missed for us.
It's a rough week.
And only had 1 for 8 in the upset parlay too. So not great.
That's a rough week. Yeah, we could make this segment pretty quick this week. I don't know if we need all the details. It was tough. And honestly, this was a week going in where I was like, I don't like any of these.
At least mine went to double overtime in Cal. They came close.
You're doing the UConn-Syracuse thing on me. When I got that, you were all over me. I mean, geez, what? No, a loss is a loss.
Yeah,
Get out
that's
of here.
true. Whatever.
You don't get the points for that.
Tough week, but we'll rebound in week 10 with the upset parlay. All right, last segment of the show, Dalton. We'll get to the PFF Top 25 right now. At number 1, staying at number 1, is, of course, the Ohio State Buckeyes, who were off this past weekend. At number 2, staying at number 2, Indiana. Number 3, staying at number 3, Texas A&M. Number 4, staying at number 4, Alabama. Number 5, staying at number 5, Georgia. No changes at all to the top 5 this week. There are some changes after that, though. At number 6, BYU up to number 6 right now. Ole Miss up to number 7. Georgia Tech at 8. Vanderbilt at 9. Oregon down to number 10. That has more to do with the other teams jumping them than Oregon right now. I just don't know if Oregon has that marquee win right now, because that Penn State win obviously does not look very good right now. But still, Oregon's still a phenomenal team. They stay in the top 10. Miami up to number 11. Texas Tech at 12. Notre Dame 13. Texas up to 14. Virginia at 15. 16 through 25 now. At number 16, you got Louisville. 17, Oklahoma. 18, Michigan. 19, Tennessee. 20, Houston joining the top 25 and joining the top 20 at number 20. Washington at 21, Tulane at 22, Cincinnati at 23, Missouri at 24, and Memphis at 25. What stands out to you, Dalton? Top
you know
25?
What I think about with some of these teams and with the portal and everything it is with quarterbacks, you know what I think about? You mentioned this, I think, in your playoff prediction preseason, that if we got like Georgia-Miami, right? Beck versus Georgia, right? I look at some of the other just revenge possibilities sitting there. Like, what if we got Houston and A&M? First of all, in-state.
Wow.
First of all, in-state would rule.
That is possible,
like,
yeah.
Houston and A&M would be a fun one, right? Even think, here's another one for you. How about Cincinnati against Indiana?
Oh, Sorsby.
Brendan Sorsby.
True.
Revenge. Could he possibly be the guy to take down Cignetti in a playoff? Would love it. And then to me, the ultimate one, which would be the wildest of all of them, BYU Tulane.
Oh my.
That would just be
dude,
just
we
made for TV.
All of that plus Georgia-Miami is like the ultimate.
Georgia-Miami is the ultimate because of the way that went down. But there is some potential for some really fun revenge games. The other one I would want to see, honestly, give me Pavia versus Bama round 3.
Yes,
I'd be all in on that, no question.
It's unfortunate that Penn State and Missouri's seasons are shot, because Bo against Penn State would have been.
Well, that would have been epic too, for sure. Yeah, those two teams have suffered some fates this year. But no, I that's what I kind of think about with this one, with some of these rankings, where I go, well, there's some.
Those are actually all
we
possible.
We could get some real revenge. Oh, if we even Wigman versus A&M would be awesome.
That'd be incredible.
That would rule, especially in state and all of that. It's like
Marcel Reed took his job.
Like, and he really went to Houston and went and made the playoff with Houston. Like, what? We got a long way to go.
Going against a guy who took his job,
but it would be a whole lot of fun. But we got a lot of fun ball games in between to get to first. We got several weeks, but I just think about some of those teams and I go, boy, the potential for some storylines there.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
For anyone wondering, the 4 teams that fell out of the top 25, which let Tennessee, Houston, Washington, and Memphis join the top 25, was USF, Illinois, LSU, Arizona State. Those are the 4 that dropped out of my top 25 this week. So really eventful week, Dalton, and another massive one coming up.
Another one before I get to that real quick. We could We could get a Notre Dame rematch with one of those 2 games that they lost too.
It's true.
We could get if we got a second.
It's possible.
If we got a second Notre Dame A&M, I would not complain.
No.
Especially if it was in the first round or anything. I mean,
Notre Dame Miami's possible. Yeah.
that would be fun too. But anyway, we do have a lot of big games. I got 8 of them locked in right now. We might negotiate 2 or 3 more in there, depending. We're kind of taking a look at lines, just different things and ramification. But here's the 8 we have locked in right now. Next week, tell you what, Max, do we have an elimination game? Oklahoma and Tennessee. Oklahoma coming off. They've got a couple losses. Tennessee's got 2 losses. That's a big one. Vanderbilt, Texas, like we've mentioned. Is Arch Manning going to play? And is it even going to matter with Diego Pavia coming to town? Miami playing SMU. SMU off a weird loss to Wake Forest. Now they're kind of playing. They're playing for, maybe the season's on the line against Miami, who turned things around against Stanford with a big win. Florida playing Georgia. I know that's always a favorite of yours watching that game. Cincinnati and Utah. One of the biggest games in the Big 12. We keep talking about Cincinnati. Let's not forget about Utah getting, was it 53-7 late over Colorado last night? I think they ran for like 430 yards or something. Utah's run game is a threat. Cincinnati's as well. Group of 5 again, Navy and North Texas going back to the American. Another huge game that's going to decide things at the top of those standings. USC, Nebraska. I think that's another elimination game that you got in the Big Ten there with both of them with 2 losses. And then for sure, Georgia Tech at NC State. Georgia Tech looking to keep the undefeated season alive, looking to stay in first place in the ACC. Looking at adding maybe a couple more here, but those are the 8 we have locked in right now.
Yeah, it should be a loaded Tuesday preview show. Again, Tuesday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time will be the preview for Week 10 of college football. We're getting closer and closer to the end of the year right now, and the playoff race is just feeling like it's starting to heat up right now, too. So it should be a loaded preview show on Tuesday. We'll see you guys there Tuesday, 1 p.m. Eastern Time, live here on this channel for the preview and predictions for the biggest games of Week 10 of college football. Got to shout out all the people back there, and of course, Tyler, Quinn, Eli, and of course, Mama Wasserman back there too, Dalton, as well.
Of course. Really the best spectator.
The reason why you're here, quite literally.
I just hope the guys weren't asking her too many stupid questions, honestly. God knows
they're probably asking, like, embarrassing stories.
Who knows the conversations that have happened back there behind the glass the last 2 hours?
I would love to hear stories about your childhood. Just like, I mean, I can't imagine you.
It's kind of like now. I'm kind of boring, honestly. What did I do when I was 4? The same things now. I sit around, I watch the Mets. It's just
probably the same thing.
If you wonder, this is not new. This is just what we've always done. It's the same thing here. College football I didn't get into until a little bit later.
You're not even wearing any Jets stuff going to the Jets game today.
It's tough.
Yeah, I don't know if I want to be advertising that you're a Jets fan. I get why
it is a tough shade of green to wear right about now.
0-7.
0-7.
No Garrett Wilson or
Joe
Sauce Gardner.
Joe Flacco revenge game.
Oh, true. It is. Yeah.
He's got a revenge game for everyone at this point. But yeah. Anyway, I'm sure Eli's playing the music.
It's gonna be fun. But we'll see you guys Tuesday, 1 p.m. Eastern Time for our Week 10 preview show. See you guys later.